Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is engaged to Sona part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Location: Underworld Sinti Frozen Plains. Place: Frozen Forest. Time: 1800. Came the yell of a girl as yet another tree was destroyed in her rage. 11-year-old Sona Citri was beyond pissed off. She had shed her prim and proper demeanor to allow her more devilish wrath to come to the surface. Her glasses had broken several minutes ago due to the sheer cold that she was producing in her wrath. They really couldn't blame her, as her childhood friend had passed a buck to her in the form of a marriage contract to the Phoenix clan, the Citri clan's rivals. Sona was a cold beauty that was normally static. Her hair was styled in a bob cut that went to her shoulders, violet eyes, wearing a floor-length blue dress. While the clan was quite upset that Rias wouldn't marry Rias, but Sona was alright as well. Seraphol-sama, is Sona going to be okay? Asked her Queen Tsubaki, looking at the woman who was in charge of Devil. Tsubaki could have passed as Sona's twin sister, but her hair went to her knees, with her left eye being violet and her right eye brown. She wore a Miko outfit. Seraphol put her hand on Tsubaki's head. Don't worry, Tsubaki-chan. She just needs to get it out of her system, said Seraphol. Seraphol was considered the most beautiful devil in the underworld, and was the self-proclaimed rival of Gabrielle of the Seraph. Standing at 5 feet 6 inches with massive DD cup breasts, blue eyes, long black hair pulled into twin pigtails, wearing a pink top with no sleeves, pink skirt, black and pink thigh-high-heeled boots, and a staff in her hands. She looked at her sister, who was in anguish, wishing she could help her. Location: Citri territory. Place: Sorrow City. Time: 1300. Seraphol, Sona, and Tsubaki walked through the small city. Seraphol brought Sona here at her request to do some shopping and hopefully get some of her anger out of her system. It had been 5 days since the contract in Decent, and already Sona and Rias were bitter enemies instead of rivals. They would be sharing a territory soon and would have to work past what happened. As they walked ahead, of blonde hair caught Sona's eye as he bumped into her sister and walked past them. Sona didn't think about it, but she and Tsubaki stopped as Seraphol smiled. It's not a good idea to steal from a Satan young boy, said Seraphol. The boy tensed up before he ran. Sona and Tsubaki chased after him. He turned down an ally and would have lost Sona and Tsubaki had Seraphol not appeared before him with a grin on her face. Sweet boy, it's not nice to steal from people, said Seraphol, holding her wallet in her hand. Sona looked at the boy who had stole from her sister. He was probably the same, as if not a year younger than her and Tsubaki. He stood at 5 feet 2 inches, dirty wild blonde hair, 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek, blue eyes, wearing ripped jeans, a dirty white shirt, an orange jacket, and boots. Young man, you stole that wallet from my sister, said Sona. The young man in question narrowed his eyes. So what? You're rich. I need the cash to live another day, said the boy. You can go another day without. I can't. It's been 2 weeks since I last ate anything. Seraphol gasped before pulling the boy into a hug. Oh, you poor sweet boy. Sona raised an eyebrow. 2 weeks? Asked Sona. The boy growled. Yeah, 2 weeks. Sona smirked at the boy. Sure, he was rough around the edges, but that rough part also went along with Diamond. Sona had always had an idea of what she wanted when she started to build her peerage. While Sona valued intelligence, there was something she valued more: heart. While Rias was building her peerage around gears and power and Rias a harem, Sona built her around heart. Tsubaki had a sacred gear, but Sona didn't care about that. She cared about the heart in her servants. The boy pouted with a glare that Sona found cute, so she couldn't help let out a giggle. What's so damn funny? Yelled the boy. Nothing. What if I told you that I could make it to where you never go hungry again? Asked Sona. I'm listening, said the boy. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Naruto, by the way. My name is Sona Citri. I want you to become my knight, said Sona, holding up a glowing blue knight piece. Location: Ku. Place: Ku Academy. Time: 1645. The bell to signal the end of the school day was both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because the school was letting out for the weekend. A curse due to the fact that it was time for the weekly student council meeting. That and Sona would be bitching at them if their homework wasn't done. Naruto didn't want to hear his master's mouth at the moment. The last 5 years had been kind to the young orphan. At 16 he had grown from 5 feet 2 inches to nearly 5 feet 11 inches with muscle from his training and tan skin. He wore a white button-up shirt, a tie, and the school jacket and pants. Instead of the loafers he chose boots. This was Uzumaki Naruto, the 100 Arms Knight, aka the Devil Alchemist of Sona Citri. He was in his second year. He had started at Ko last year at the behest of Sona and Serafal. He honestly wanted nothing to do with school, seeing as how he saw himself as a warrior. The blonde-haired male felt someone shaking him. Sighing in annoyance, Naruto turned to look at his fellow student council/peerage member and best friend Nimura Ruruko. Ruruko was a beautiful girl, as most devil women tended to be. She was called Big Boob Loli by several males who wanted to get into her skirt. She stood at 5 feet 1 inch with large C-cup breasts, long legs that were attached to rather thick thighs, big green eyes, long brown hair and twin ponytails with green clips in her hair. She wore the Ko female uniform, which consisted white long-sleeved, button-down shirt, short sleeves for spring-summer, with a black ribbon on her shirt collar worn under a black shoulder cape and a matching button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents, and her rather memorable green striped stocking that came up to her thighs. This was one of Sona's 2 pawns. She was a first-year student who idolized Naruto. "What do you want, Ruri-chan?" asked Naruto in slight annoyance. "Sona-sama called us to the student council room, Aniki. It's time for our weekly meeting," said Ruruko with her hands in front of her with a grin on her face. The spunky first year getting several boys to drool over her only for Naruto to glare at them, making them back off. Naruto nodded before getting up and yawning. As the duo made their way down the hall, many people made way for the tall youth and the small girl. While Ruruko was a bit of a mean girl, Naruto was an outright bad boy. He was considered a delinquent due to his blonde hair and blue eyes, despite being 1/3 Japanese according to Sona to cover why he had a Japanese name. While he seemed to look the part, Naruto was actually fairly approachable to most people. It was actually one of the reasons Sona made him the chairman of the discipline squad, which only consisted of himself, Ruruko as his deputy, and 4 members from each year. Ruruko worked well with Naruto. In fact, they made up 2/3 RDS of Sona's strikers/enforcers. They were her vanguard. It also didn't hurt that Naruto was probably the most versatile member of her entire peerage. "So anything to report from the squad?" asked Naruto as he stopped by his locker and put away his bag, before grabbing a white hexagon with AC on it, as well as grabbing his student council armband. A white armband with the kanji for discipline on it with captain next to it. "Not really, Aniki," said Ruruko as she grabbed her own gray hexagon with XVI on it. She also grabbed her own armband. One that matched Naruto's but with the kanji for vice captain. "I'm surprised that the perverted trio aren't up to anything today. I was sure that I would have had at least one of them try and fight me today," said Naruto, thinking that he was going to hear from his most frequent guests to the school holding area. "Well, you know those 3. They can't stay out of trouble for long. Besides, I'm sure the Kendo girls are going to get them," said Ruruko, smirking at the thought of those assholes getting beaten up. "It's their own fault for being the annoyances they are. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something drastic, especially that bald-haired boy. He's a rapist in the making, and I'm sure that Glasses is into some illegal stuff on the internet. The only one I don't have too many problems with is say his perversion is just a tad over the top. If he tuned it down just a few notches," said another boy joining them. He had short blonde hair that was less vibrant than Naruto's, gray eyes, wearing the male's uniform without the blazer and his sleeves rolled up. This was Genshiro Sanji, Sona's other pawn, who was revived a little over 3 months ago. He was a bit of an annoyance to Naruto since Saji considered Naruto his rival. Even though every time they fought, Naruto schooled him in hand-to-hand combat and even magic. Even though Naruto himself professed that he wasn't good with magic. Ruruko blushed looking at the boy before her. It wasn't really a secret that her and another peerage member named Momo had crushes on the boy, even though Ruruko also had a bit of a crush on Naruto. Ruruko had known Saji since middle school, but Naruto she had known since her first year of high school. They were both kind young men once you got to know them, instead of their tough guy or bad boy personas. "Hey Saji-san, are you coming with us to meet Sona-sama?" asked Ruruko. "Naturally," said Saji with a smirk. "I mean, I am the secretary of the council." The trio made their way to the council room. As they arrived at the room, the door opened, showing 2 people at the door. Ko Academy's great ladies and duo that were practically sex on legs. Rias Gremory and Himejima Akino. Both girls were tall. Rias stood at 5 feet 9 inches and Akino at 5 feet 8 inches. Rias had crimson locks that went to the middle of her back, whereas Akino had long black hair that went to her ankles in a ponytail. Both girls had ridiculous bodies, with Rias having DD-cup breasts and Akino with a G-cup breast. Whereas Rias had blue eyes, Akino had violet eyes. The trio backed away as the duo walked out. As they did, Rias stopped in front of Naruto and smiled. So when can I expect you to come and become one of my cute little servants, Naruto-kun? Better yet, the day you become my lover? Asked Rias, putting her hand on Naruto's cheek. Naruto frowned. The day Sona-sama trades me to you, Gremory-sama. Which will never happen, as I play too big a role in her plans, Gremory-sama, said Naruto as he moved her hand away from his cheek. Rias pouted before she smirked. Such a shame, really. There are benefits to being a free woman who can take whatever lover she wants to her bed. I'm still saving myself though, said Rias before kissing Naruto on the cheek. Akino laughed. It'd be easier if you gave me Naruto-kun to break for you, Rias-sama. Or don't, breaking you will be way more fun, said Akino, kissing Naruto's other cheek. Rias, don't you need to go fulfill your duties as the co-ruler of our territory? Asked Sona, coming out of the door with Tsubaki following her, both having narrowed eyes. Rias turned to her former friend/rival/co-ruler. Sona had filled out over the years and now had B-cup breasts, and now stood at 5 feet 5 inches. She wore the female version of the uniform. Rias smiled at her former friend. Sorry, Sona. I was just speaking with my future knight, said Rias, looking at Naruto with lust-filled eyes. Sona frowned as she allowed a bit of her demonic power to flow. Leave my pressure, Gremory, or do you wish to face my call wrath? Said Sona as ice began to form around her feet. Rias got a calculating look, before she shrugged before waving at Naruto as she and Akino walked away. Once they were gone, Naruto, Saji, and Ruruko walked into the office, following Sona to seat Tsubaki and Momo there as well. Tsubaki stood at the same height as Sona, but had filled out with massive C-cup breasts. Momo was a silver-haired beauty that stood at 5 feet 4 inches with C-cup breasts and blue-green eyes. She wore the female uniform. Are you alright, Sona-sama? You seemed fairly tense there for a moment, said Naruto, looking at his king. I'm fine. I just received a message from Riser today, as well as some news from Rias that has me a bit out of sorts. Once I have more information on the subject, I'll fill you in, said Sona, taking her seat at the table. Saji, Ruruko, and Naruto all frowned hearing this. Sona made it clear to everyone before they joined that she was trying to get out of a marriage with Riser Phoenix. None had ever met him save for Naruto and Tsubaki. Both were not fans and refused to allow their master to marry such a vile creature. While Sona had gone into despair for a while, Naruto and Tsubaki had started preparations to save their master from the marriage. One of those had to do with Naruto learning under Ajuka Beelzebub for 2 years as a favor to Seraphol. He had told Sona and Tsubaki about what he learned and the things he could now create. Enough about that. It's time to get to work, said Sona. Hi, said everyone. Hey Sona-sama, where's that lazy wolf and my adorable Kohai? Asked Naruto, crossing his arms as he stood against the wall. Both of them are doing contracts. Although I would prefer if you showed respect to Lu-san. He is the strongest member in the peerage after yourself, Naruto, said Sona, having no delusions about who are her strongest pieces. Naruto snorted before he sat down at his seat and began to do his work. A few hours would pass before they finished what they were doing. After about 30 minutes of work, a seal appeared on Sona's desk before a piece of paper appeared. Sona picked it up and read over the contents before looking at Naruto, Ruruko, and Saji. A witch has appeared within our territory. She had violated the decree from the Magic Society. This is a direct order from Leviathan-sama and the Supreme Sorcerer that this witch, Darcy of the Storm, is hereby excommunicated and deemed a Class C threat with a dead or alive tag attached to her head. Her last known whereabouts are here in Ko, near the business district. Your orders as follows: kill the witch and capture her grimoire, said Sona. Naruto, Ruruko, and Saji all bowed to their master. Hi Kichu, said the trio as they prepared to go and kill the witch that dared to encroach on their master's territory. Location: west of Ko. Place: abandoned manor. Time: 1800. The Magic Society was one of 2 human factions that didn't want anything to do with the Vatican or the Heavenly faction. The Hero faction, which focused on chi as their main source of power, the Magic Society focused on mana to get the job done. There were also ranks within the Magic Society. The Sorcerer Supreme was the strongest mana user in the human world. Other than that, there were the strongest members of each class: Sorcerer, Mage, Wizard/Witch, Enchanter/Enchantress, and Elemental. Darcy of the Storm just happened to be an enchantress with elemental ties to her past. Even though her official moniker was Darcy of the Storm, she much preferred Witch of Illusions, seeing as her coven sister Stormy was more of the weather manipulator. The only reason she was even in Ko was because she needed to get the item that would allow them to reach far beyond their current C-class ranking. Darcy looked at her ceiling mirror and smiled as she looked at herself, and was tempted to touch and fondle herself thanks to her sheer beauty. Darcy, at the tender age of 21, stood at 5 feet 9 inches, D-cup breasts attached to a Coke bottle figure with floor-length brown hair, with her bangs being a shade of yellow, hazel eyes, wearing indigo bodysuit with no sleeves and capri-style pants, indigo gloves, ankle boots that are the same color as her outfit, and a choker that forms a D at her belt. Oh, how sexy she was. With a body like hers, she had had a few lovers, but none lasted longer than a few months. If it wasn't at her sister's instantiate, she would have enchanted the head mage of their former coven. One of her enthralled servants entered her quarters and bowed to her. She wasn't any older than 15, she stood at 5 feet 1 inch with absolutely massive D-cup breasts and a very curvous body, dull yellow eyes showing that she is surly enchanted, wearing a beige skirt with black tips, and her top is a white shirt with puffs pull-on white sleeves, brown gloves with yellow trim. In between her skirt and her top, she has a brown corset-like clothing garment. She also has a small brown hat with white fur coming out of it, as well as gray and white striped leggings, and black and yellow, knee-high boots. She gave a curtsy to her mistress. "What do you want, Mommy?" asked Darcy with a hint of annoyance. "Forgive me, mistress, our wards were breached, and I thought that you would like to know," said the young woman. Darcy sighed before swiping her hand. "View," said Darcy. The mirror changed, showing 3 devils in her words. A girl and 2 good-looking boys. The blonde with whiskers was handsome and gave an air of danger that Darcy liked when she chose her toys. He would prove to be entertaining for several months. "I like the blonde with whiskers. Mommy, I'll leave the girl and dull blonde to you. Eliminate them, I have something special for him," said Darcy, getting up and vanishing. Mommy turned on her heel and left the room. As she did, she summoned 2 white long rifles with crosses on the buttstocks of the weapons. Her dull eyes came to life as they glowed, even as the smile never left her face. Location: Westco. Place: outside the manor. Time: 1810 Friday. Naruto walked forward with his hands in his pocket with Ruruko on his left and Saji on his right. The house they were approaching was in the middle of a small forest just outside of Kuo. It was a nice area and could easily be missed if one wasn't paying attention. Also, the rune and magic barriers didn't hurt too much either. Naruto had managed to use his own demonic magic and skills with barriers to open a hole in them. Sona had made it a point that all members of her peerage could use, detect, and if needed destroy a barrier. As they approached the house, Naruto raised his hand to signal his companions to stop. As they did, the door opened as a young woman walked out holding 2 rifles. Upon seeing the weapons, all 3 got into stances. Naruto got into a loose boxing stance, Saji held out his left arm, and Ruruko held 2 Roman-styled short swords in a reverse grip. "Is this the target?" asked Saji. "No, but something about her isn't right," said Ruruko. "She's enchanted," said Naruto. "Greetings, visitors. My name is Mami. Tomo Mami. My mistress Darcy is awaiting the whiskered one in the summoning chamber. However, you 2 are not allowed to pass," said Mami. Naruto looked at the 2 of them before looking at them. "Saji, stand guard as backup. Don't interfere in this fight between Ruruko and Mami-san," said Naruto. Saji nodded, understanding Naruto's train of thought. If Darcy had a subordinate, she probably had allies as well. Holding his left arm up, a small purple lizard appeared. Naruto walked forward as Mami walked forward. As they passed each other, Naruto stopped and looked at her. He narrowed his eyes, but didn't say anything as he walked into the house. Mami looked at her 2 opponents with a grin. "Please make this entertaining for me," said Mami, holding up 1 rifle. Ruruko didn't waste any time and pulled out a hexagon-shaped item. "Buso Renkin!" yelled Ruruko as the hexagon opened up before the area was covered in a blue light. The hexagon left her hand and began to form around her legs up to the middle of her thigh in boots with layered dark green greaves and a 2-inch heel. Buso Renkin of the Greaves. Lightning swift. Sanji narrowed his eyes. "So Ruruko-san, you're planning on ending this quickly," thought Saji. Ruruko was the fastest member of the entire peerage when she used lightning swift. She could outspeed a knight easily. Also, thanks to her side effect, the longer a battle went on, the faster she got. Oh, she could also generate lightning with her kicks when they were charged. Ruruko vanished in a burst of lightning before appearing Mami. Mami, to her credit, didn't flinch as she raised her rifle and blocked each strike from Ruruko. While she was forced to back up, she wasn't being idle. Jumping backwards, she fired FRM1 rifle before twisting and firing from the second. Ruruko blocked both bullets before jumping into the air and began to spin like a buzzsaw. Mami aimed at Ruruko only to find her hand stopped by a glowing purple line. Mami was hit in the stomach with a lightning-charged kick and screamed out in pain as she blacked out. She fell to the ground out cold. Ruruko turned to Saji with a frown. "Why did you interfere, Saji no Baka?" yelled Ruruko. "Better to finish this fast instead of drawing it out. Besides, I can't let one of my friends get hurt," said Saji. Ruruko blushed hearing this and began to mumble about not ready yet kids Naruto being a jealous lover. Saji looked on in total confusion. Location, Westco. Place, inside the manor. Time, same time. Naruto opened the door that led to the summoning chamber, and found Darcy sitting at a table on the loft. Darcy turned to Naruto as she shut her book as chains appeared around it. I take it that's your grimoire? Asked Naruto. Yes, it is. Or to be more precise, it is the collected knowledge of the past 10 generations of our coven. Sorry. I meant our true coven. The power of the tricks, said Darcy, standing up. Naruto smirked. Thanks for making my job easy, said Naruto. Darcy snapped her fingers and Naruto was stopped by a magic barrier. Naruto looked at the barrier and touched it only to get electrocuted. Looking at his burned fingers with an annoyed expression, he turned his view back to Darcy. As she seemed to be walking around the barrier. Licking her lips, she eyed Naruto. Yes. You will make a nice toy for a while. I hope you're packing something nice downstairs, said Darcy as her eyes began to glow purple. Now prepare me. Naruto felt the parasite try to invade his mind. It wasn't as subtle as a scale, more like a sledgehammer breaking through a brick wall. Even with such an attack, she was still lacking in power to even attack his mental barriers. Naruto sighed before putting his hand out. Repel! Yelled Naruto, breaking the connection. Darcy yelled in pain as she grabbed her head and backed away from the barrier. That was all Naruto needed before he clapped his hands and slapped the ground. While Naruto sucked at regular magic and even worse at science, he was pretty good at alchemy. Most people thought that alchemy was just a way to transcend the rules of life. Turning lead to gold or water to wine. No, it was so much more than that. It was the power to rewrite reality itself. The amount of time and effort that went into the research was crazy. Naruto honestly had 3 completed tomes on the subject, but that was neither here nor there. The barrier scattered like glass as Darcy managed to regain her footing. Damn you! Darcy held out her hand. Come and do my bidding! Undead Knight! The room shook for a moment as Naruto jumped onto the loft as a Death Knight appeared in the center of the room. The blonde frowned seeing the knight. It was a hulking black skeleton with a twisted sword and a massive shield. A loincloth protected his modesty while he had on chest, shin, shoulder armor and a helmet. The Death Knight roared a challenge as he looked at Naruto. Kill him, said Darcy as she took out a small slip-up paper and allowed it to attach itself to the air as a portal opened up. Darcy stepped though as the portal closed. Naruto growled in annoyance as he pulled out his white kagurki. Buso Renkin of the metal jacket! Yelled Naruto as it opened up and began to cover his body. He gained black pants, a sliver-colored duster with a shoulder cape, black gloves, and a silver hat that was so low you couldn't see his eyes. Silver skin! The Death Knight looked at Naruto before swinging his sword at him. The sword connected with Naruto, only for the Death Knight to stumble back. The knight looked at his sword and then at Naruto in confusion. Naruto vanished from sight before appearing before the Death Knight and punching it with such force that it went sailing through the wall and into the main house. The Death Knight regained its bearing and roared at Naruto as he stepped through the hole. I thought that would be enough to kill you. Even at 20% of my full strength I can level a building. Let's try 30 then, said Naruto. Naruto vanished and appeared above the Death Knight. Uzumaki Comet Stomp! Yelled Naruto, as he came down as his right boot seemed to heat up, before he crushed the Death Knight underfoot. Once Naruto was done, he unzipped the top half of his jacket and removed his hat. He went back into the room and to the tag that she used. Picking it up, Naruto examined it, allowing Silver Skin to resend on his hand. While all Buso Renkin were powerful, they also came with weaknesses to anyone who know how to spot them. Silver Skin was a defensive type Buso Renkin. It prevented Naruto from being hurt by slashes, stabs, any magic below tier 7, however by that same respect it prevented Naruto from using magic or alchemy while it was on his person. Appraisal, said Naruto as he used his hand to scan it before his eyes lit up. As Naruto looked at the tag, he frowned. It was a one-use item that allowed for teleportation to a pre-assigned location. While Naruto couldn't pinpoint an exact location, the magical trail was still in Ko. He'd asked Lu to look into any magical signatures while in his off time. Pocketing the seal, Naruto put his hat back on and allowed his hand to be covered once more as he made his way out the house. Upon walking out, he saw that Saji had Mommy wrapped up with his absorbing line, draining her magic. Did you finish the mission? Asked Ruruko. Negative. Target escaped, but I have a clue to her location. Let's get Mommy-san to Sona so she can get some help, said Naruto. The duo nodded as Ruruko opened a magic circle and teleported away. Location, West Co. Place, Naruto and Tsubaki's apartment. Time, 0630, Saturday. Naruto awoke in his apartment smelling breakfast cooking. Grabbing his phone, he saw that it was only 8 in the morning. Getting out of bed, he walked into the kitchen to see that Tsubaki was cooking breakfast in black short shorts and a white tank top. Naruto and Tsubaki stayed together in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lu and Benya shared an apartment above them. Good morning, Rido-kun, said Tsubaki, putting a plate in front of Naruto. Morning, Tsuchan, said Naruto as he yawned. Normally the duo acted professionally around each other, as was expected of the oldest and strongest members of Sona's peerage, but when alone they dropped all pretenses and acted as the friends they truly were. If anyone from school saw them acting so familiar, everyone would think they were dating. So what are you doing today, Rido-kun? Asked Tsubaki as she ate a piece of toast. I'm meeting Saji, Emo-san, and Ruru-chan at the park to train them. Ruru-chan was asking about training her with her abilities and using her Kyurigake. After the fight with Mami-san, it's not surprising, said Naruto, taking a sip of his juice. While Naruto had had his Buso Renkin for over 3 years now, he still had a long way to go before he could master it. Remind me again what their devil arms are? Asked Tsubaki with a smirk. Naruto looked at her with annoyance as she smirked at it. When Naruto first created the alchemy arms, or Buso Renkin as he liked to call them, Tsubaki called them devil arms. Even Sona liked the term and called them that. His teacher Akaja had called them watered-down versions of sacred gears, but they worked in such a way that anyone could use them. Currently only 100 existed. Naruto, as the creator, the Buso Renkin, kept them under strict lock and key. Even if he was ordered to give them out, Naruto wouldn't, because as he had told others before, anyone could use them. Unlike the scared gear humans, only restriction. Kurigake manifests from the person's will to fight and the strength of their own souls. No two people will have the same weapon and power. Ruru-chan's Kurigake turns into the Buso Renkin of the leg, lightning swift, and Momo-san's is the Buso Renkin of the living puppet, Zetsui. I still don't see why you won't just take one. I gave Sona-chan one Buso Renkin of the waves, demon of the deep, said Naruto. Tsubaki smiled as she manifested a mirror that sat snugly in her 2 hands and had gold trim with wings as she released it and allowed it to float behind her. Mirror Alice is all I need. That, in conjunction with my magic and use of, are all I need in a battle, said Tsubaki. Naruto nodded. How much time do we have left? Asked Naruto. Not much. I'd say 2 months to a year before he comes calling. Do you think you can get Saji, Momo, and Ruruko up to the level we need them to be at? Asked Tsubaki. Naruto rubbed his head. Not sure. While they all have potential to be strong, for each of them to unlock their chain break is going to require more than training, said Naruto as he got up from his seat and put his dishes away. Naruto walked into his room and changed into a pair of orange pants and a black muscle shirt. He walked over to Tsubaki, who had turned on the TV and was probably going to binge-watch romantic TV shows. Naruto walked over to Tsubaki and gave her a tender kiss on the lips that she returned. There was nothing romantic about it, it was just a thing between them. See you in a bit, Tsuchan, said Naruto. See you later, Rido-kun, said Tsubaki. Location, West Co. Place, Park. Time, 1000. Momo and Saji panted as they stood across from Ruruko and Naruto, who, while dirty, were grinning like the freaking cat that caught the canaries. All 4 had training gear. Naruto MMA gloves, Ruruko kick pads and twin Bakken Saji gloves, and Momo a bamboo sword. You're too strong, Naruto-senpai, said Momo, wearing the school gym uniform without her jacket, allowing herself to breathe after that rather harsh training. Not only do you have a knight's speed, you also have a rook's strength. Naruto sighed. Only because I trained my body to be so. Thanks to the speed boost of the knight, I have to work 20 times harder to gain my strength and defense abilities. Trust me, it's not easy keeping that strength up with her, said Naruto. So how about we take this up a notch? Asked Saji, releasing a bit of his power as his left arm gained a purple aura. Naruto went into his pocket and pulled out his white hexagon as his own power exploded. As they were about to battle, they were stopped as they felt the presence of holy magic. They looked over to the entrance to the park and saw Hyota Issei, the most and least perverted member of the perverted trio, with a girl. The problem, however, was that the woman was a fallen angel. Saji, Ruruko, said Naruto, taking command in Sona's stand. Hi, said the two. Monitor the situation here. Momo and myself will report this to Sona-sama, said Naruto. What should we do if she proves hostile? Asked Saji. Naruto looked at his fellow blonde. If they prove hostile, kill them. This is devil territory, and the only reason we haven't done anything is because we don't know what they're up to, said Naruto. The duo nodded to Naruto before they took off, following after the duo. Momo activated a teleportation circle before they vanished. Location: North Co. Place: Sona's bathroom. Time: 1130. Sona was laying in her personal bath, just enjoying the hot water that kissed her skin. It was a rare occasion that she was allowed to enjoy herself. Between Rias's less than attractive attitude, Riser's constant letters, the mystery coven that was in her territory, and her sister calling her every day to see if anyone was messing with her Sonatan, it was nice to relax. She opened her eyes as a portal opened up in the bath as Naruto and Momo stepped out, and both fell to a knee bowing. Sona, like many born devils, didn't really understand the concept of modesty. To devils who were descendants of a branch tree of fallen angels, it was a concept as foreign to them as the sky was to deep-sea fish. Sona stepped out the bath and donned a sheer white robe that barely went to her thighs. "Rise and speak to your king," said Sona. The Citri family normally treated their servants as family, but unlike the Gremry, who would allow their servants free rein when they wanted, Sona made sure that her servants were aware that sometimes they were servants attending to a master and not her friend and family. "Sona-sama, as I was training Momo, Ruruko, and Saji, we sensed the presence of a fallen angel. She was also accompanying Hyota Issei. Currently I have Saji and Ruruko monitoring them," said Naruto. Sona took a seat at her vanity mirror and took a pose. She swiped the mirror and allowed the embalm for the Gremry clan. On the other side of the mirror appeared Rias, dressed in nothing but a bra and thong. "What can I do for you, Sona?" asked Rias, crossing her arms under her more than impressive bust. "Were you aware that fallen angels were operating in our territory and targeting Hyota?" asked Sona, hiding her envy when looking at Rias's breasts. Rias looked at Sona with slightly narrowed eyes. "They've been in the territory for about 2 weeks now. They've taken up residence in an abandoned church. I've also had my eye on Hyota, seeing as he has a powerful scared gear in his left arm and could be useful in my peerage as the powerhouse that I've been missing," said Rias. Sona frowned at the fact Rias hid this from her, but would keep the information to herself for now. "Adding another one to your collection, I see," said Sona. Rias smirked. "What can I say? I'm a greedy little devil," said Rias before she frowned. "I'm also aware of the coven that has appeared in our shared territory. I assume that you're going to deal with them?" "So long as you deal with the fallen angels, then I have no problems taking out the witches' coven," said Sona. "Then we have an accord. I'll be in touch when I finish the fallen angels off," said Rias as she allowed the connection to sever. Sona turned to the other two. "Call Saji and Ruruko back. We need all hands on deck for this," said Sona. "What about Lu and Bienia?" asked Naruto. "Already on the way here. I wasn't sure, but I knew that I would need them," said Sona as she walked into her room, followed by Naruto. Sona went into her closet and grabbed some shorts and a long-sleeve top. She put them on, foregoing a bra and panties. Once she finished, she grabbed her glasses and put them on. "What about the girl Mami-san?" asked Naruto. Sona looked at Naruto. "I currently have her in a magical coma with a 5-tier magic barrier surrounding the room," said Sona. "Do you have a familiar guarding her?" asked Naruto. "Yes, in fact, should she somehow away, my familiar will get me. Speaking of which, the day of the full moon is approaching. Will you get a familiar this time around?" asked Sona, smiling at her servant. "Maybe. It has been 5 years since I joined you. I think I will get a familiar this time around," said Naruto. Sona smiled at Naruto before a magical circle appeared in the middle of her room as 2 figures appeared in said circle. They were the little big duo of Sona's peerage. Lu Garu and Benia Sturban, a last name she chose for herself. Sona's single, Rook, and Naruto's partner, Knight. Lu was by far the tallest member of Sona's peerage, standing at 6 feet 5 inches with a body built for fighting, with all his muscles being made for use and not show. He was a pretty handsome man. Gray hair with bangs in his face, black boots, and shine guards that went up to his knees, yellow eyes, wearing a skin-tight V-neck white shirt, black leather jacket with a white fur-lined hood, fitted blue jean pants and a red headband. Lu was a normally quiet man of few words. However, Sona had heard that several girls had a crush on the young man. From what Sona knew, the 19-year-old was dating a 17-year-old third-year student. Benia was the shortest member of Sona's peerage, standing at 4 feet 9 inches even though she was 15, and had curves and B-cup breasts, dark purple hair that is tied in a long braid by a bow with a purple skull, reaching all the way down to her hips, and sleepy golden eyes. She wears a white skull mask in conjunction with her Grim Reaper clothing, which consists of a light blue dress that went to the very top of her hips, showing that she didn't have any underwear on, and a black and white hood resembling a jester cap with an emerald gem at the tip. She also wears black elbow-length gloves covered in gold neon lines with gems at the back of her wrists. Benia was the mischievous little sister of the peerage. She liked to play pranks, and was the self-proclaimed prankster queen from hell. "Hi Sonane-sama," said Benia. Lu looked at Benia before giving her a small light chop to the head. "Don't disrespect Ojo-sama like that, Nia-chan," said Lu. Benia began to tear up before she jumped on Naruto and wrapped her arms and legs around him. "Aniki! Rugal is being mean to me again," whined Benia, burying her face into Naruto's stomach. Naruto sighed as Sona glared at Benia. The only one allowed to hold Naruto like that was her. Wait, no. She was the leader of the peerage, they were her servants. They were supposed to do as she says. No, she wasn't Rias. Sometimes it was hard being a devil girl. "Benia-chan, enough. This is important," said Naruto, signing at the younger girl's antics. Benia got off Naruto as she stood next to Lu as they both bowed to the woman who was there. "King." "What are your orders, Ojo-sama?" asked Lu. "I need you to find the location of the witches' coven that is operating out of our territory illegally. Also, if you happen to run across any fallen angel activity, then report it back to me, Tsubaki, or Naruto," said Sona. "Hi Sonane-sama," said Benia, smiling at her master. "Your will be done, Ojo-sama," said Lu. Benia and Lu got up and left the house. As the duo left, Naruto took a seat on Sona's bed before laying down on Sona's bed. As he did, Sona joined him and hugged him. "So planning on resting up?" asked Sona as she closed her eyes as she slowly began to drift off to sleep. As Naruto massages her scalp. "Devils don't rest, Sona-sama," said Naruto as he pulled out a pocket watch and opened it, showing 3 different timers. All of them linked to his current project. Too bad he had to pay a hefty price for those materials. "Sona-sama, forgive me for what I have done," said Naruto as he looked at Sona, before kissing her brow. Location: Ko. Place: Sona's house. Time: 1700 Saturday. The striking of a hammer could be heard in the forge that Sona had built under her house. Or rather, Serafal had built for Naruto with her surprisingly unlimited wealth. It was also where Naruto had all his Buso Rinken locked away. They were locked in a cage that had a 7-part seal that only Naruto and Sona knew how to open. If anyone tried to open it by brute force or magic, then the cage would self-destruct, destroying all the Buso Rinken inside. It was one of the reasons that Naruto wasn't forced by the council to give them out, as he could easily forget the release sequence. Naruto was bare-chested with pants on and his hands wrapped in bandages. He stopped striking the item he was hitting, before he wiped his face of the sweat. He grabbed a pair of tongs and lifted the item up and dipped it in water to cool. After 10 minutes he picked it out, showing that it was a golden handle with 4 slots for gems around the guard of the hilt. Naruto picked it up before walking over to a transmutation circle before placing it in the center of the circle. Naruto placed his hands on the circle before activating the circle. The circle glowed blue for a minute before the glow died out. Picking it up and looking at the inside of the handle to see several silver-blue glowing alchemy letters. This signified that the alchemic power had taken effect as he wanted. Naruto nodded after careful inspection of the lettering and making sure that each sequence was lettered right and would do what it meant to do. Walking over to a table, he picked up 3 icy-colored orbs that were each the size of a penny and carefully inserted them inside the handle before picking up the last orb, which had a rainbow of colors constantly swirling inside of it. Carefully placing the last orb inside, Naruto performed transmutation on the hilt, making the orbs meld to the hilt. He took the 16-inch golden-colored hilt and placed inside a circle as it floated in the air. He turned to the last components. A 15-inch long, 8-inch wide, 5-inch thick slab of blue ice and a 17-inch long, 3-inch wide orichalcum sheet. They were the last 2 pieces needed to finish his weapon. It would take Naruto 3 days to shape and forge the 2 together. Time he currently didn't have on his hands. Picking up the orichalcum, Naruto walked over to an AutoCAD and began to set the dimensions on what he wanted. He took the blue ice to another machine, only this one was powered by magic. Setting it, he allowed it to be cut into, also getting shaped to the way he wanted. The blonde boy yawned. Going over to his pocket watch, he grabbed it and opened it, showing that the last components had 65 hours before they were ready to be forged together. Walking to the stairs and walking up the stairs, Naruto exited the room and sealed the door, before concealing it with a powerful illusion. Naruto walked over to Sona's room to see that his master was still asleep. Naruto went into her closet and grabbed a spare set of clothes that he kept there when he worked in the forge. Naruto walked into the bathroom and ran a hot bath, but showered first as not to leave a ring around the tub. As Naruto allowed himself to sink into the water, he sighed. In 62 hours he would be able to complete his weapon. Naruto and Lu were Sona's strongest fighters, but they were deadlocked in skills. Naruto's silver skin gave him defense that rivaled that of the Rook, while Lu, being a werewolf, gave him a higher natural speed than normal, comparable to a knight. Honestly, when Naruto and Lu fought, it often came down to a battle of speed. Currently the two of them were 16 to 16. Naruto was sure that the next time they fought he would be able to win. Location: Ko. Place: Ko Academy Halls. Time: 0830 Monday. Naruto walked down the hall yawning. He spent almost all Sunday working in the forge and doing contracts. While Naruto was a middle-class devil, he still ended up with contracts from time to him. His contracts were, for whatever reason, rich women who wanted to take either a young lover or son out on a date. Naruto never slept with any of them, but he got really good at planting suggestions in their minds, making them think they did the deed. Hearing some talking around the corner, Naruto grew a bit curious since classes would start in another 15 minutes. He stopped as he looked at Issei, who was talking about the girl he went on a date with, to his two buddies. It seemed that Issei had served his encounter with the fallen angel. Unlike pureblood devils who had slow birth rates unless they bred with a reincarnated devil, or angels who couldn't breed at all due to the fact that they were born of pure, holy, or righteous souls, fallen angels could breed with each other and humans to increase their numbers. For Issei to not only have met one, but retain his memories if she didn't. "I'm telling you guys, Yuma was real," growled out Issei. "And I'm telling you that you were spanking it too hard to a good skin flick, son," said Matsuda, the perverted baldy. "Issei, you're our brother in the ways of the pervert, but if you keep this fantasy up you're going to come off as just a creep," said Motohama, adjusting his glasses as he allowed his hair to cover his forehead again. "That's funny coming from you, Motohama-san," said Naruto, making the trio jump in fear. "Yo, it's not cool dissing a bro, Uzumaki," said Matsuda, growling at his archenemy. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. "Then how about I talk bad to all three of you shameless idiots who have small and can't find a girlfriend in this reality, or a fake one," said Naruto. "It's not a crime to enjoy treasures of the flesh, especially those with small boobs and small bodies," yelled Motohama. "Something you'll never have glasses," said Naruto, creaking his neck in preparation for a fight. By this point the four had gathered a crowd. Most of the girls were calling for the trio's blood at the hands of their roguish prince who defended their honor. The guys just wanted to see a good fight. "I never said that, but the extremes that two of the three of you go to honestly has me worried for the safety of every female in the school," said Naruto. "Why, you punk!" yelled Matsuda, throwing a punch at the head of discipline. Naruto moved out the way and tripped the body as Motohama jumped on his back and tried to strangle Naruto with a rear naked choke. Naruto, unfazed by this, threw Motohama into Matsuda. He turned to Issei, who charged him, and threw a punch. Naruto could have easily blocked but didn't, as Issei threw the attack with his left hand. This was not the first time that Naruto had to fight the trio. He had memorized the way they fight. Issei always punched with his right hand, followed by a terrible attempt at a hook. However, today he threw a textbook example of a left straight that actually had a decent amount of power behind it. 1. Everyone gasped as Naruto was hit and took a step back, selling the punch a little more than he should have. Mostly for the entertainment of the people. Naruto looked at the boy and then he felt it. It was so small that most devils would miss it. Issei was using devil magic and he had a scared gear in his left arm. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He had been reincarnated, but was unaware of it. Naruto would have to confer with Sona, but before that he would be speaking with Rias about this. Attacking a devil that belonged to Anther Master was an offense, and if Issei was really just reincarnated, he was a low class. That made Naruto his better as far as devils were concerned. By all rights, Naruto could kill him if he wanted. Grabbing Issei by his collar, he kneed the boy hard enough to knock the wind out of him. Naruto pulled out some zip ties and bound the boys' hands behind their backs. "If you haven't learned by now, then you never will," said Naruto as he went about searching their bags. "Hey dog, hands off my stuff!" yelled Matsuda, ready to go a second round with Naruto if only he could get out of the bonds. "If you were foolish enough to attack Naruto-san, then your eyes are no more," said Tsubaki, arriving on scene after a first year came to find someone to help Naruto. "Are you hurt, Naruto-san?" asked Tsubaki. "I'm fine, Tsubaki-senpai. My pride is more hurt due to the fact this weakling managed to hurt me," said Naruto as he pulled out a porn mag and Lilicon videos. "I'll be locking these up in the disciplinary office." "Very well then. You take care of that. I'll see to it that these three make it to detention," said Tsubaki. Naruto was on his merry way to the office. As he did so, he was stopped by a girl putting a hand on his chest. The girl wasn't tall, maybe standing at 5 feet 2 inches with breasts that were at least C-cup. Her figure was slim, but the curves of her body were undeniable. Brown hair pulled into 2 braids that reached her breasts, pale green eyes that are half-lidded, wearing the co-female uniform. But instead of the vest and cape combo, she instead opted for the sweater vest at the alternative uniform, but people rarely wore it. She also chose long black stocking instead of white socks. This girl was Kiria Akiya. She was the most perverted girl in the school and in true was the boys' nightmare since she was often called witch or succubus by the boys. Mostly due to the fact that she did the same things the perverted trio did. Well, they were half right on that. Akiya was indeed a witch/succubus hybrid and was a member of a Denver. She was the younger cousin to Kurono Kuruma. Their mothers were Jiha Kurono and Swaimon Kiryu. Both were arch-level succubi that had quite a bit of influence with both the Kyoto faction and Devil faction. Of course, they tended not to meddle in politics unless it affected the succubi race as a whole. 2. What do you want, Kiria-san? Asked Naruto, opening the door and walking in with the girl following and closing the door and magically sealing it. Outside of wanting your babies, I have a bit of information for you, said Kiryu. What information? Asked Naruto, looking at the girl. Kiryu smiled at Naruto. They had a bit of a strange relationship, at least according to Tsubaki and Sona. Kiryu often messed with Naruto, claiming she wanted to have sex with him, or have his babies. According to her, it didn't hurt that Naruto had some massive grapefruits hanging from his python. Naruto tolerated her due to the fact that she had the power of clairvoyance, and a powerful sighing ability. Sona honestly would have reincarnated her if she had some use in her overall build for a peerage, but she didn't. Instead, she was content to let her be unless she did something to destabilize the piece of Ko, or the area that encased the Citri/Gremry territory. The witch you're looking for. Darcy of the Storm, said Kiryu, catching Naruto's interest. What about her? Asked Naruto, hiding the fact that he was a little impressed by her. Kiryu smiled as she pulled a book out of her pocket. While I'm primarily a member of the Succubi Nation, my Tusan is a member of the Magic Society, even though I rarely see him. He sent me this the other day. Throwing the book on the table, Naruto picks it up. He raised an eyebrow. Exiled Magicals and Covens? Said Naruto as he opened the book up. Over the 2,000 years the Magic Society has existed, several covens have come and gone, either they died out or disbanded. However, a few of them were exiled from the society because they broke a cardinal rule, said Kiryu. I take it that the coven that Darcy belongs to do this? Asked Naruto. Hi. The Tricks were exiled 1,000 years ago for trying to raise the army of decay. A army that is said to be indestructible. No one really knows how to summon it. No one escaped the Tricks. The original coven summoned only a fraction of this army, but they were turned away by the strongest Sorcerer Supreme and his army. The Tricks had their minds wiped, their magic sealed, and all their texts destroyed. All except for the Book of Decay, which they managed to hide away where no one could find it, said Kiryu. Until this generation, I presume, said Naruto, looking at the girl. Kiryu got off the table and walked to the window and crossed her arms. Once a coven is exiled and their magic and mind sealed, the Magic Society doesn't track them. They didn't think that the descendants of the original Tricks would arise. I can only assume that those 3 plan to use the Army of Decay to finish what the original Tricks started. What was the original Tricks' plan? Asked Naruto. The destruction of humans and the advancement of all magicals, said Kiryu. A knock sounded on the door. Kiryu walked over to the door and unlocked it to allow Ruruko in. Ruruko looked at Kiryu with a glare as the girl winked at her before leaving the room. Ruruko hated Kiryu since she was often seen as trying to seduce Naruto and Orasaji. Ruruko walked up to Naruto and handed him some papers. Naruto looked at the papers and put away the book for now. Location: Ko. Place: caves 20 miles outside the city. Time: 0000, Tuesday. Darcy was screaming into her gag as the full darkness of the blindfold kept her from seeing anything, as she was bound to the wooden horse naked as the day she was born, with her arms bound behind her back. While Darcy loved seeing her lovers in such positions, she hated them herself. This was her punishment from the leader of their coven and her elder sister for failing her mission. Even though she hated this punishment, this didn't stop her juices from flowing, but her release denied due to magic. For 4 days she had been at the mercy of her sister like this. Her sisters took no pleasure in her pain, and she knew this. Each had a punishment tailor-made for them when they did something foolish. This just happened to be hers. 3. Stormy, remove the gag, came a voice that seemed to come from the frozen plains of hell itself. Of course, I see, said another voice that seemed to just crackled with electricity. Removing the gag, Darcy glared at her sisters. You've had your fun, now get me down, growled the Dark Witch. I should leave you there for another week unable to indulge in your lust, but we have bigger fish to fry. Friday will be the perfect time to summon the army of decay and finish what our ancestors started, said Icy with a smirk in the shadows as she cut her sister loose from her bondage. As she was released, she removed her blindfold and glared at the duo before her. Icy and Stormy had body portions similar to herself, but the difference was in the hair. Icy had long silky hair that was done in a high ponytail that went to her ass, and ice blue eyes. She wore a one-piece bodysuit that was blue in color with an eye belt buckle. Stormy had frizzled purple hair with. Instead of a bodysuit, she wore a purple dress. Throwing her some clothes, Darcy quickly dressed. As she took her spot in the Coven thrones. Now that you've been punished, do you have any plans to deal with the devils? Asked Icy. 1. The blonde, he was strong, that much I can attest to. Even though I didn't stick around, he killed the Death Knight with ease. That was a level 5 undead that he killed, said Darcy. Stormy growled. It takes weeks just to forge one of those. We only have 30 of them, growled out the Witch of Storms. Now, little sister, everything is all right. We still have the others and the army of decay on our side, said Icy. Not yet, we don't, said Darcy. Icy glared at Darcy. Don't make me kick your ass again, said Icy, allowing her power of said element to show. I'm sorry, but unlike you, I'm not into incest. Or was Mommy dear not hard enough on your ass when she turned you out? Asked Darcy with a smirk. 4. Icy glared before firing a spear of ice at her sister. Darcy raised her hand, stopping it. This was a pretty common thing between the three, and while they never using anything above level 2 magic, it kept them all somewhat on even grounds. Icy just happened to have the highest magic reserves of the three, making her the de facto Coven leader. When can you return to Code, Darcy? Asked Stormy, trying to defuse the fight before it got started. I can go tomorrow. I'm going to take 5 Death Knights this time. I also narrowed the lead down to a museum. If the Dragon Fire Fragment is there, then we can summon the army by Friday, said Darcy. Be careful of those devils and try not to activate the AM. We need the Dragon Fire Fragment to summon the army of decay alongside the Phoenix Fragment, said Icy. I'll be quick about Icy. That I promise you, said Darcy as she rose to retire to her room. Location, Co Academy. Place, English class. Time, 10:30 Tuesday. School was always boring, especially modern Japanese. Ruruko hated this class. She was only passing with a C+. Sona told her to get her act together or she would be spanked. No one in the peerage liked that punishment. Ruruko sighed as she pretended to listen to her teacher's lesson, but was already deep in thought thinking about Naruto-kun. It was a little over 6 months ago that she met Sona and Naruto. Who knew those two would change her life forever? Flashback. Location, Koa's Red Light District. Place, Club. Time, 2100, Saturday mid-February. Ruruko walked out of the restaurant with her daddy for the night. She wore red lipstick, a green miniskirt that was so small that you could almost see the bottom of her thong if you looked closely, black stockings, a heavy tan fur coat. It was slightly open, showing her breasts off since she didn't wear a shirt or bra. Ruruko often took guys out to get money from them. Sure, they were old enough to be her brother or dad, but that was neither here nor there. She did this for fun and the pocket change was always welcome. Currently she had about 200,000 yen saved after doing this for 4 months. They often paid her really well, normally between 5,000 to 20,000 yen. The most she had ever done was some kissing, light groping, and even gave a hand job to one guy who had been really cute. She honestly didn't want to give her virginity to any one of these men, even though they offered a lot. Today's client was actually a handsome young gentleman who was about 26 and a businessman. So where are we going, Aniki? Asked Ruruko. The man smiled and took her to an alley before pushing her up against the wall. He grabbed her jaw and began to kiss her. Ruruko moaned into the kiss as the man began to undo his pants and allow his member free. Ruruko feeling the cock touching her stomach since the man was so much taller than her. Ruruko backed away from the kiss and stuck her tongue out at the man. Sorry, Aniki, but we won't be doing that, said Ruruko with a smile. The man glared at her before pushing her to the ground and mounting her. Ruruko wanted to scream, but a punch to the face silenced her. The man licked her face before he began to assault her breasts with his hands and cock. Ruruko began to cry, thinking that she was about to be ruined because of this bastard. Someone save me, thought Ruruko. Just as she thought this, a magic circle went off in her pocket. The man got off her as 2 people stepped out of the circle. It was a blonde with a broadsword in his hand and a Sonowane-san. You would dare try to violate a maiden of Ko Academy? How disgraceful, said Sona. The man growled. Fuck you, bitch. I paid good money for this young piece of ass and I plan on getting mine in, said he man pulling out a gun. Naruto, please teach this ruffian that it's a bad idea to point things at ladies when they don't want them, said Sona. With pleasure, Sona-sama. I won't even need silver skin for this, said Naruto. Ruruko looked at both Sona and the youth. She remembered his name now, but this was her first time seeing him. Uzumaki Naruto was the new head of the disciplinary committee upon Sona's personal request to the staff of the school. Even though he was only a first year, he was physically the strongest person in the school. He was also a regular in attendance to garden club meetings. Before the man could pull the trigger, Naruto vanished and cut the man's hand off. Naruto dropped the sword before it vanished into nothingness. He grabbed the man's dripping, bleeding head, before dropping it next to the body, before clapping his hands and putting it on the body. The body twisted and reformed before it turned into marble. Picking it up, he threw it into the garbage. No trace of the bloody scene was there. Your wish has been fulfilled, said Sona. Now I require payment. What is it you want, Sona-chan? Money? My body? My soul? Asked Ruruko in a bit of fear. Sona smiled at her. You're actually pretty lucky. Since the new Satan faction took over, we are forbidden from taking human souls. That contract that you carried around was good for one wish. All I require is a bit of your natural magic. Is what I would normally ask for, however I've been watching you for some time, Ruruko. You're a tough girl, never allowing anyone to hurt you or bully you at school. This is honestly the first time I've seen you fold. Fear of that fate exists in all races with females, I suppose. Your heart drew me to you. For that reason alone, I want to offer you the opportunity to become my pawn, and a member of my family, said Sona. What if I refuse? Asked Ruruko in defiance. Nothing. I wipe your memory of this incident, and you go back to never knowing that you were saved this night, said Sona. Ruruko looked at Sona, before looking at Naruto. Is this true? Asked Ruruko. 4 years ago I rolled the die with Sona and it turned my whole life around. Whether or not you make the same choice is up to you. Just know that if you become one of us you will have to do unspeakable evils in the name of Sona-sama, said Naruto. Ruruko looked at Naruto and searched his eyes for any signs of doubt about the choice he made. After a full minute she found none. Closing her eyes she looked at Sona before bowing her head. I accept, Sona-sama, said Ruruko. Sona pulled out a pawn piece from her pocket to mention. Then under the power of Sona of the House of Citri I command you to be reborn into the life of a devil as my pawn, said Sona as the piece shot off and into Ruruko's chest. Ruruko gasped in pain as he back exploded, revealing 2 black slender bat wings. She gave one last look at Sona and Naruto before she fainted. Flashback end. Since that day Ruruko hadn't regretted her choice. She sometimes wondered / daydreamed about what it would be like to be Naruto's servant instead. Would he be a kind master? A cruel master? Or a kinky master that liked to do sexy things with her? Ruruko rubbed her thighs together at the thought of her Naruto-senpai. She often had fantasies of what would happen if she gave Naruto her virginity. Would he be gentle with her or would he ravage her like an animal? Oh no, she was getting horny. Lowering her pen she brought it close to her nether region, so close to playing with herself in class. The thought of people knowing that she was a horny woman. She stopped as the door opened. She looked to the door along with the class to see Saji there. Saji bowed to the teacher. Sorry to barge in like this, Sakazuki-sensei. But I was sent to get Ruruko-san. The student council has been called for an emergency meeting by Sona-san, said Saji. Ruruko got up and followed Saji out of the class. Both glad and annoyed at the blonde-haired boy. Location, West Coast Citri home. Place, guest room. Time, 1900 Tuesday. Big yellow eyes fluttered open as the figure looked around the room. Sitting up she removed the covers from her body, but winced in pain as her head felt like someone had tried to split it open with a mallet. She felt a slight breeze before she realized that she was naked. Looking around she saw a simple pair of jeans and a shirt. Going over to them she squeezed her rather large ass and thick thighs into the pair of jeans that were probably a size too small. In fact they slightly fell off her hips, but came to about mid-calf. She pulled on the shirt that was rather fit on her. Finally a pair of yellow sneakers went onto her feet. Opening her hand she tried to summon her soul gem, the source of her power, but to no avail. Without it she could only do tier 1 spells without exhausting her magical reserves. The room was clouded with magic stopping her from using it. Walking to the door she tried to open it only to be shocked. Mommy looked at the door again, before holding her hand out. Scan, said Mommy as her eyes took an ethereal glow as she looked at the door. A tier 5 magic barrier. I won't be able to break that down without my soul gem. Mommy sighed as she sat on the bed. She only sat there for about 20 minutes before she heard the shattering of glass. This was the sound that let her know that the barrier had been broken by the user. The door opened, and in walked a with different colored eyes girl flanked by two boys of blonde and silver hair. The blonde boy and girl wore uniforms of the school while the boy was dressed like a biker. The blonde boy also had a collapsed baton on his belt. No doubt it was for her should she get unruly. Good afternoon, Tomo-san. My name is Shinra Tsubaki. Behind me are Uzumaki Naruto and Lu Garu. We are all servants of the Citri family and are members of Sona Citri's peerage, said Tsubaki. Mommy nodded in understanding. So you're all devils then? I have vague memories of the blonde boy, said Mommy. I'm afraid you'll have to tell all this to Sona-sama. She waiting in the parlor for us, said Tsubaki. Mommy followed Tsubaki out of the room with Naruto and Lu flanking her. The walk to the parlor was short, and led down a flight of stairs and into a room off to the left of the stairs. Standing guard at the door was a small girl, with a skull mask on and a scythe in her hands. She opened the door, allowing them inside the parlor. The parlor was dimly lit, but Mommy could make out the figure behind the desk. On her, the left of her, was another blonde boy who wasn't as handsome as Naruto or Lu, but was still passable as someone who could be a fun date. A girl with pigtails stood next to a chair, and a silver-haired girl was by the fireplace. Tsubaki, Naruto, and Lu took up positions in the room, Lu by the door along with the small girl, Tsubaki by the woman at the desk, and Naruto by a chair in the middle of the room. Mommy looked at the setup impressed. They had her surrounded on all sides. The only way out was a window off to her left, but she was sure that it was covered with a magic trap or barrier that would stop her. Please have a seat, Mommy-san, said Sona. Don't mind if I do, said Mommy, taking her seat and folding her hands like a proper young lady. Name is Sona Citri, heiress of the House of Citri. This is a matter of record due to the fact you attack servants of my house and therefore my house. Please state your name, said Sona. Hi Citriheim. My name is Tomo-mami. I am the last living member of the original Majika Coven. All others were killed during our moment of weakness, said Mommy. Moment of weakness? Asked Sona. I'm sorry, but I cannot clarify that as it would betray one of the Magic Society's greatest secrets, said Mommy. Very well, then I won't push further, but I require your abilities at the moment, said Sona, reaching into her desk and producing Mommy's yellow soul gem before tossing it to her. Mommy caught the gem and felt her connection to magic focus once again. Why is that, Citriheim? Your peerage seems more than capable of dealing with 3 exiled witches on your own, said Mommy as she put the gem around her neck. During school hours, Darcy along with 5 undead knights attacked the museum and stole a crystal shaped like flames with a yellow glow to it. Do you know what this crystal was? Asked Sona, throwing a picture at Mommy. Mommy caught the picture and looked at it before narrowing her eyes. This is the Dragon Fire Crystal. It is one half of a set that the Tricks have hunted for years. That is all the information I know, seeing as how the books on the Army of Decay are forbidden to even masters of the society. Sona narrowed her eyes. Lu, have you and Benia managed to find the witch's base and find their numbers? Asked Sona. Hi Ojo-sama. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be. They've hidden themselves in a cave several miles outside of town. The barrier they erected is at least tier 4. I also smelled undead there. They most likely have more death knights than the one Uzumaki-san managed to kill, said Lu. They have 29 in total, as well as a few goblins, a minotaur, and an ogre. Not to mention the 3 witches. The terrain is mountainous, with a few grassy plains inside the barrier, said Benia. Tsubaki made a hollow map appear on her board with the said pieces in front of Sona. Sona carefully studied the board. Sona allowed her mind to calculate and strategize. She placed her hands in front of her face and allowed her hair to shadow her eyes before smirking. What are you planning, Sona-sama? Asked Naruto. Sona picked up a knight before holding it out and slamming it on the hollow map. Checkmate in 4 turns, said Sona as her yellow eyes gained a murderous glow to them. Location, outskirts of Ko. Place, outside Cave of the Tricks. Time, 2000 Thursday. Sona was probably the smartest of the 4 rookie kings as the heirs to houses Gremory, Baal, Agars, and Citri. Each of them was considered powerful in their own right, but Sona didn't have the same magical prowess as Rias, the muscle of Serorg, or the raw power of the dragons that seek Vera. However, she made up for that with cunning. That was the reason why she didn't have one standard formation when it came to her forces. She had several. Her main attacking / de facto force, the strikers. Naruto, Ruruko, and Lu made up the strikers. Her fastest fighters. While Naruto and Lu could easily be considered her strongest pieces, they had a rivalry that had them try and one-up each other. That was where Ruruko came in. She was not only fast enough to stop their attacks on each other, but could make them stop with just a glare. Backing them up with magical support was Tsubaki, Sona, and instead of Momo as was normal today, Mami would act as the third of their magical support. Bringing up the rear and making sure that no one escaped was Benya, Saji, and Momo. Naruto and Ruruko already had their Buso Renkin activated. Lu had discarded his jacket as they walked into the barrier. The second the strikers walked into the barrier, low-level undead appeared. "That's quite a few undead," said Ruruko, holding her twin swords at the all sporting shields and swords. "Nothing I can handle in a minute," said Lu, creaking his knuckles. "Please, Mutt. All you're going to want to do is chew on the bones." "Leave this to me," said Naruto, rolling his shoulders. Naruto and Lu looked at each other, before they both vanished in a burst of speed and static. After only 30 seconds, both appeared next to Ruruko. Lu's hands now sporting wolf claws. "What's the score, Ruri-chan?" asked Naruto. 37-32. In favor of Lu, sighed Ruruko, more annoyed that she didn't get in on the action. Lu looked at his rival and smirked at him. Before Naruto could speak and talk back, he grabbed Ruruko by the arm as Lu jumped backwards away from a shockwave. Sona raised a barrier, stopping the earth shockwave from hurting the trio. In the rear, they looked at the entrance to the cave only to see a minotaur. It was at least 8 feet, with his left horn missing and a large sword in his left hand. He was drooling as he roared to the skies. "A minotaur. Perfect," said Naruto as he allowed Silver Skin to resend on his arms before clapping his hands and slamming them on the ground. From the ground, Naruto created a kopis. Grabbing the kopis, Naruto charged in and did a falling spinning kick. The minotaur blocked the attack, before swinging at Naruto. Naruto was caught in the side and sent flying. Naruto righted himself in the air as a blur of silver passed him as Lu in his wolf form charged in and darted to the side before he jumped at the minotaur's throat, going for a quick kill. The minotaur snatched him out the air and was about to slam him into the ground had Ruruko not appeared behind the minotaur and kicked him in the head. Lu got away. Before the minotaur could resume the fight, he found himself trapped in ice as Sona trapped with a block of ice that Sona and Tsubaki created. Ruruko appeared in front of the minotaur and cut his head off. With a twin slash, the minotaur fell over dead as the strikers regrouped. Naruto and Lu looked at the girl who held up the victory sign. "No fair, Rurukan, that was my kill, you know," yelled Naruto. "You're wrong, shitty chemist. That was my kill," said Lu. "Are you all okay?" asked Sona. "Yeah, we're fine, Ojo-sama. That thing wasn't as strong as it looked, but it was smarter than your average minotaur, that's for sure," said Lu. "Shall we go into the cave?" asked Mami with a smile. As the group made their way into the cave, they could feel the effects of a second barrier. After passing the barrier, they stepped into cold water. Everyone besides Sona and Naruto shivered. Naruto stopped in front of the group before removing his hat and unzipping the front of his jacket. Naruto clapped his hands together before slamming them on the ground, heating the water slightly. "That was the spell work of a witch," said Mami. "Was it Darcy who cast the spell?" asked Sona, looking at the Majika. "No. The one behind this was Icy. She has quite a few powerful ice spells. If I was to say so myself, she is the strongest member of the tricks, just due to her sheer magical power. Even if Darcy and Stormy were to attack her, they would probably be beaten," said Mami. The group counted to move forward without any real delays to their speed. They ran into the odd undead here or there, but it was nothing they couldn't handle. About 15 minutes into their journey, they had to stop as they entered a large cavern. Storm clouds could be seen in the air. Everyone tensed as they felt a magical build-up in the air. Naruto pushed Ruruko out of the way, taking a lightning bolt struck where she was. Naruto didn't even feel it as it was much too weak to bypass Silver Skin, but had it hit Ruruko, she would have been knocked out cold. Once the lightning died down, everyone turned to the area where the attack came from. Looking there, they saw the 3 witches all standing there. Icy, the one with white hair, holding an amulet with an orange crystal in it shaped like a dragon, while the other half was empty with a phoenix shape. "He's sturdy. That was lightning bolt was fully charged," said the purple-haired one, her right hand arching with purple lightning. "I agree. He took one of your tier 4 attacks with ease," said the white-haired woman. "I got to say that you are not as powerful as you think you are," said Naruto as he glared at the witches with glowing blue eyes. The trio narrowed her eyes at Naruto. Darcy's eyes glowed purple as she directed chaos magic at Naruto. Naruto felt the magic, but it didn't take hold. Naruto charged at the trio, but was stopped by a large fist, sending him flying into the wall. Naruto grunted in annoyance. While slash, piercing, and magic attacks up to tier 7 did nothing to him, pressure-based attacks and super magic could still hurt like a bitch. Falling out the wall, Naruto looked at the figure that hit him. It was a hulking golem full on ready for battle, and he was strong. It was purple in color, standing at about 10 feet tall with broad shoulders, massive fists, and a tiny head with a single gem in it with arms that Lu was already in the air throwing a kick at the golem. It blocked the attack, before throwing him into the ground. Mami began to fire on the golem, but it was ignoring the magical bullets as Ruruko charged in and began to hack at its body with her blades. Naruto got off the ground before charging in as Sona and Tsubaki began to fire off fire and water magic at the golem. The golem looked at Sona before opening his mouth and firing off a laser of pure magic. Tsubaki raised a barrier and blocked the attack as both Naruto and Lu jumped and kicked it in the head. Ruruko appeared before it, and combined her blades before slashing upwards trying to cleave the creature in half. With only sparks coming off her sword, she landed on the shoulder, as Lu picked her up bridal style and jumped away. The duo landed on the ground. Naruto appeared next to them. By the power of the Citri clan, I command the waters to crush this abomination, yelled Sona, summoning a bubble of water around the golem. Creeks could be seen forming in the body, before Naruto appeared before it in the air. Uzumaki open palm cannon, yelled Naruto, pulling his open palms back and throwing them forward and unleashing an air blast that busted the bubble and put a large dent in the body of the golem. 1. Looks like the army of decay can regenerate. This will be a huge advantage when we summon the full army, said Darcy. With only the dragon fire we were able to summon a golem. Image when we locate the phoenix fire, said Icy, laughing as she put the amulet around her neck. The surge of energy is amazing. I feel at least 100 times stronger. Naruto allowed his arms to show as he clapped his hands and superheated the air, before firing off a ball of plasma at the witches. Icy raised her hand, blocking the attack with ease. She threw the attack back at Naruto with the added power of ice mixed in. Naruto's eyes widened as he blocked the attack with his arms. Naruto grit his teeth in pain as he looked at Silver Skin. It was slightly burned and frozen at the same time. Naruto looked at the witch, who was huddled over in pain, gasping at the amulet. Icy, are you alright? Asked Stormy, getting her sister to her feet. Too much power, we need to retreat, said Icy, panting as sweat dripped down her forehead. Darcy opened her hand. Naruto caught a glimpse of something in her hand before a portal opened up. Naruto charged at the trio as a bubble wrapped around them. The second Naruto touched the portal, he was blasted back by a powerful surge of energy that sent him flying as he screamed in pain. He landed next to Tsubaki and Sona, who turned from attacking support to healing. Silverskin receded, allowing Naruto to be healed. 2. Naruto-kun, are you okay? Asked Tsubaki, dropping her act at the moment as her and Sona's hands glowed with healing magic. No. Whatever the hell that portal was, that was at least world-tier power, and it shorted out Silverskin. What about the golem? Asked Naruto as he tried to sit up, but was having trouble. You can't fight anymore, Naruto. Leave the rest to us, said Sona. Naruto stood up and fell to the ground. A knight's job is to protect his king, queen, and fellows in arms, said Naruto, standing again and grabbing his Kakagain. I am your knight, Sona-sama. I will end this fight. Buso Renkin of the metal jacket, Silver Skin. Silver Skin appeared on Naruto, and he took a stance. Lu and Ruruko landed next to him, ready to fight with their comrade to the end. That thing is taking everything we throw at it and keeps coming, yelled Lu. We need to hit it in its weak spot, said Naruto, breathing heavy. We can hold it down. Can you hit it with your strongest punch? Asked Ruruko, crossing her swords. You have to hurry. I'm moving off Shirwell alone at the moment. Strike formation 8, said Naruto. Both Lu and Ruruko charged in. Lu reinforced his claws with wind magic, before jumping into the air and filling his lungs with air, before unleashing a massive gust of wind. This stunned the golem as Ruruko appeared behind it, and kicked it 100 times in the chest, caving it greatly. Naruto looked at the duo before charging in and jumping in front of the golem's face. Uzumaki smash! Yelled Naruto. Naruto dropped back and loaded all his power into his right hand, before punching the golem in the face, breaking the gem and ending the golem's life. 3. The golem began to crumble as Sona rushed forward and pulled out a small vial before capturing some of it. She pocketed it and planned to send it to her sister. She turned to her people as Lu helped Naruto stand with Ruruko fussing over him along with Tsubaki, with Mami laughing at their antics. Sona sighed as she smiled at her servants. Soon they would be put to the test. Location: Ko Academy. Place: Class 2A. Time: 0830. Listening to people talk could easily irritate Naruto, especially when they were praising Yuto for winning another kendo match, hailing him as not only the pride of Class 2A, but the prince of the school. Honestly, it annoyed Naruto a bit that his fellow knight used his natural devil charm. Sure, any devil worth their salt could do it, but it was draining on magic and Naruto honestly didn't have time to practice it. As the teacher walked, she walked to the front of class. Alright, everyone settle down. Today we have a new student joining Class 2A. She hails from Hokkaido, but has spent the last 5 years in England with her father. Please introduce yourself, young lady, said the teacher. The door to the class opened up and in walked Mommy, making many boys' jaws drop at the sight of the girl with big boobs and honey brown eyes. Naruto raised a brow at this. Shortly after the battle and Sona giving the report to her sister as well as the Magic Society, Mommy had requested to be reborn as a devil. She had attributed it to her entire coven being dead and her not wanted to become a skill cell at the Magic Society HQ. Sure, she had just been reborn as a devil the other day. Normally Sona kept her reborn servants on a tight leash and kept them under a 48-hour adjustment period where they could learn what they needed and get used to their new bodies. Hello everyone. My name is Tone Mommy. Please take care of me, especially you Naruto Niki, said Mommy with a smile on her face. Naruto began a mental countdown as the class exploded in chaos. Using his devil hearing, he heard the same thing happening in Issei's class. Apparently Sona wasn't the only one with a new piece. Not long before the meeting now, thought Naruto. Location, Ko Academy. Place, Sona's office. Time, 1800, Friday, August 24th. Sona smiled at her newest piece. The newly revived Bishop Majika Mami. She brought to her skills with firearms to the table. Now her peerage was shaping up to be an effective fighting force. With her this left 4 positions that needed to be filled. The positions of rook and 3 of her pawns. Opening her desk, she pulled out a letter that had the symbol of the Phoenix clan on it. Ojo-sama, said Lu from the shadows. Sona put the letter away. What are you doing here, Lu? Asked Sona. I had the day off from work and had my classes. I figured that I'd stop by and see if you're alright? Asked Lu. I'm fine. It's almost time for a full moon, said Sona, trying to get her, Rook, to stop worrying about her. Lu froze hearing this. While he was a devil now, he was still prey to the weakness of his feral side during a full moon. He had limited control over it, but not enough to be safe around people. The main reason he didn't have a familiar. Also, compaction for entry into the familiar forest was stiff at best, seeing as how only one family could enter at a time. I see that I'll miss Saji-san, Ruruko-san, and Mami-san getting familiars then. If nothing else, I'll bid you farewell, Ojo-sama, said Lu. You know, you could ask your grandfather to train you in use of your magic and inherent wolf powers, said Sona. Lu stopped before turning a glare on Sona that would have made lesser devils flee in fear. Sona, don't ever bring that mongrel up in my presence again, said Lu before leaving the room. He's such a dramatic boy, said Sona before picking out the letter again and opening it. Location, Ko Academy, Old School Buildings / ORC Clubhouse. Place, main office of the club. Time, 1700. The entire Citri peerage walked through the halls of the old school building in what could only be a show of power. Normally when 2 devils decided to meet up, it was often a measuring, or in this case tit measuring contest. Sona had brought her entire peerage, Barbenia and Lu, seeing as they had duties they needed to attend to outside of Sona and Rias trying to one-up each other. Stopping at the door, Sona knocked before Momo and Mami opened the doors for her to enter. With Tsubaki on her left, Naruto on her right, Saji and Ruruko bringing up the rear. Out the corner of his eyes, Naruto saw Issei explaining who they were to the blonde-haired girl. Rias's new bishop, if her magic was anything to go off of. She was actually pretty cute, but he sensed that she had a strong affection for the brown-haired pervert. Naruto was actually surprised by this, since he was sure that no woman could ever put up with Issei's perversion. Hello, Sona? What can I do for you? Asked Rias as she eyed up Naruto with bedroom eyes. Have you come to trade Naruto to me? Sona narrowed her eyes at her rival / former friend. I just wanted to congratulate you on increasing the number of your servants. The Gremry clairvoyance at work, I take it, said Sona, smirking at her rival. Rias frowned hearing this, and Naruto understood why. While Rias had gained the power of the Beal clan, the Gremry clairvoyance wasn't powerful in his blood. In fact, her young nephew had a better grasp of his power than her. It was actually a bit surprising that she didn't have it, seeing as she was hailed as a prodigy. Not at all. It was actually my dear Issei that brought Isa to me this time. And I must say that she has become a dear little sister to me, said Rias. Hold on, how does she know that? Asked Issei. I got this one, said Naruto, stepping forward. Gremry-sama isn't the only one who has a stake in this territory, Arogeki. Sona-sama is the other ruler of the Ko territory. Like Rias, Gremry-sama, Sona-sama is the heiress to her house. Rias is heiress to Pillar 56 and Sona Pillar 12. Don't let the numbers fool you. They are only numbered that in the order that the original Lucifer, the morning star, the one who defied God and was cast from heaven along with his 3 generals and 72 followers. That is not what the Bible says, said the blonde-haired girl, remembering all her teachings. The book was written by a jealous God. Out of all the gods that exist in the world, he was the only one who refused to share his glory with another, said Rias. Hold on, there are other devils at this school? Asked Issei, his brain finally catching up to the conversation. Took you long enough, said Ruruko, crossing her arms under her breasts. Gremory-sama, I'm shocked you didn't inform your new pieces about us. Goes to show how much trust she has in you, said Saji, trying to play it cool. Naruto punched Saji in the head. Hey dumbass. It's considered bad manners to get invalid in the affairs of other devils and families, said Naruto, reprimanding his junior. Hold on, this is the new student council clerk. He's from 2C. I think I might have voted for this guy, said Issei with shock. Forgive Saji. I still have much to teach him. This is my new pawn, Gentru Saji, as well as my newest bishop, Tome Mami, said Sona. Saji bowed and Mami curtsied. That's funny, I also have a new pawn and bishop, respectively. Issei Hyota and Asia Argentu, said Rias. Naruto tuned out most of the rest of the meeting as Kiba walked over to Tsubaki and tried to talk with her. It wasn't a well-kept secret that Kiba had a crush on Tsubaki, but at the same time she didn't like him like that. Kiba had actually told Naruto to stay away from Tsubaki before. Naruto actually wondered what Kiba would do if he found out that Naruto and Tsubaki slept together on occasion, although they had never had sex before. Contest, said Sona, bringing Naruto's attention back to the present. Whoever wins gets the rights to the familiar forest, said Rias with a smirk. What do you have in mind, Rias? Asked Sona. How about a tennis match, said Rias. Sure. Tonight, said Sona as she and her peerage turned to leave. As they left the room, Mami looked at Naruto. What was that? Asked Mami. What was what? Asked Naruto. There seemed to be a negative aura when Sona talked. Oh, Rias, said Mami. It's not my place to tell. Sona has an open policy when it comes to the peerage. She'll tell you when the time is right. It's more or less an open secret anyway, said Naruto. I see, said Mami. Location, familiar forest. Place, open field. Time 0000. After a rather heated tennis match and later dodgeball game, Sona had her peerage ready to go to the familiar forest. As they entered the forest, they encountered an 40-year-old Ash Ketchum reject. Naruto sighed before he ventured off on his own to look for a familiar. The forest was open for 6 hours before the gates closed again. Naruto jumped onto a tree before he began to bound from place to place. This went on for about 2 hours before Naruto landed near a lake. Naruto went to scoop some water to drink when movement caught his eyes. He turned and glared as he saw a yellow rabbit with 2 black horns dart through the trees, followed by a pack of foxes. Naruto narrowed his eyes before he gave chase. They didn't run far as they trapped the rabbit against a sheer stone cliff. Naruto arrived at the cliff as the rabbit took human form. It looked like a young girl, maybe 12 or 13, she stood at 4 feet 8 inches with becup breasts, her long crimson hair. She keeps it in 2 knee-length ponytails, emphasizing her small body and leaving the back of her neck slightly bare. Her forehead is covered by bangs split in the middle, each side reaching to her eyes and covering the sides of her cheekbones. Her eyes were rather soft, but do have a slight edge to them. They have large red irises and very small, black pupils. Enju has a rather small mouth and nose. She wore a small orange hooded sweater with orange and red square designs on the inside. The front bottom ends are folded upwards and held by buttons. The sweater has a short zipper with an oversized tag. Underneath the sweater, Enju wears a long, white dress, partially resembling a camisole. She wears a thigh-length skirt held up by a large, thick belt. Wears knee-high boots with extremely thick, heavy, black soles. I wasn't trying to enter your territory, yeah, yelled the horned girl. The lead fox snapped at her. It doesn't matter, rabbit. We gave you a warning once. Not again. One of the foxes darted at the girl and was close to her only to meet a lightning bolt that sent it flying. The foxes looked at where the lightning bolt came from and saw Naruto standing there rubbing his hand as he looked at his hand. What did you do to my king, you damned half-breed? Yelled the fox. I deep-fried him. Although I hate using lightning, I have little control over it, said Naruto. I much prefer to use alchemy. Much less complicated than weaving magical knowledge together. Half-breed, yelled the leader, charging at Naruto. Naruto held out his hand with his middle finger and thumb together. Disappear with the sound of thunder, said Naruto as he snapped his finger. The rabbit didn't understand what happened, only that the foxes fell to the ground dead. The one who saved her turned to leave. She followed after him only for him to stop and turn to her. What do you want, Chibi? Asked Naruto. The girl puffed out her cheeks at him before jumping up and throwing a kick at him that he ducked. I'm not a chibi, yelled the girl. Then brat? Asked Naruto as he blocked a punch. I'm not a brat, yelled the girl as she opened her mouth and fired off a beam of lightning. Naruto held out his hand and stopped the lightning. He looked at his hand, grinning. I like you, Chibi. How about becoming my familiar? Asked Naruto as he held out his fist. The girl grinned at him. She bumped fists with Naruto. Sure. I have nothing better to do, Oni-san. Yes, said the girl. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. From this point forward your name is Enju, said Naruto. The now named Enju grinned at this. I can live with that, said Enju. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 Honestly, it came down between the cute and the sexy. I'm including the alternative so you guys can see how this was originally going to go. Most likely, depending on how I feel or what the community thinks, I'll make them both his familiar. At this moment, I'm not sure. 0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 A black flame shot out of the cave. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That was new. It had been nearly a year since Naruto had been to the familiar forest, but to see that was something. Dark flames could only be found in the 9th pit of hell. A place even devils dare not tread. Naruto walked into the cave and into the deepest parts of the cave. Before long he found himself staring at living flames, the glowing green eyes that seemed to stare into his soul. The long, slender body of a serpent was easy to see. A third red eye could be seen on the top of its head. The dragon of darkness flames looked at him for a moment before it opened its mouth. Why are you here, child? Asked the dragon in a female's voice. I was wandering around when I saw your flames, great one, said Naruto. Flatter I see. If I was that young Citri girl, or even the one who could be her twin, I would swoon and fall into your arms, laughed the great dragon. So you have the power to read minds? Asked Naruto. My power of clairvoyance is great. Nothing like my mother's or even Gremory's own, but then again I am a queen darkness dragon who gained the power out of a mutual partnership, said the dragon. What is your name, if you don't mind me asking? Said Naruto. Unlike other dragons, we of the darkness flames have no use for names. Our males die within months of birth from fighting and burning out their limited powers, and we queens have no desire to be near each other, said the dragon. Then what if I give you a name, said Naruto. The dragon laughed as she stared at him. A halfling like you. Please. A human mother and a demon father. What was his name? Namikaze Minato of the Kyoto faction. I believe he was a lightning beast. You yourself are a human with strong lightning powers, but you refuse to use them for anything other than that silly alchemy, said the dragon. Naruto frowned hearing this. Before he vanished and appeared before the dragon, gripping her by the neck and slamming her to the ground. The dragon roared as she glared at Naruto. Do not talk about that bastard Minato to me, yelled Naruto, releasing lightning from his body. So you have some fire to you after all. No male has ever been able to manhandle me, and you have a powerful aura. Our hatchlings will be quite powerful. Very well, master, said the dragon as she began to burn and take a different shape. Her new form was rather striking in appearance. She looked quite young and beautiful, standing at nearly 5 feet 8 inches with large D-cup breasts. She had long black hair, with green highlights, copper-brown skin with pointed ears, sharp canines, and dark green eyes. She wore a black robe with purple outlines, a green sash, and no footwear. From this moment forward your name will be Rina, said Naruto with a smile. Very well. Take care of me, master, said the now named Rina. Location: Ko Town. Place: Naruto and Tsubaki's apartment. Time: 0720, Friday, August 31st. Chibi, I told you not to add that crap to the food, yelled a voice. What was that, you overgrown lizard? Last I checked, all that fat went to your boobs, yelled another voice. Naruto groaned as he heard his two familiars fighting downstairs in the kitchen. Shortly after the two met, they had instantly started a rivalry of sorts that made no sense to the young blonde male. It had something to do with height, boobs, and other things. Those two are quite lively for a Friday morning, said Naruto. At least my familiar stays in the forest when I don't need him, said Tsubaki as she awoke wrapped in the arms of Naruto. The last week following their trip to the familiar forest had been quite stressful. According to Sona, Rias was getting impatient. He would be visiting soon. Sona had made it perfectly clear to both Naruto and Tsubaki that she didn't want to scare the others. Tsubaki was aware that her best friend was losing sleep over this as well as her responsibility as council president. You're thinking too much, Tsuchan, said Naruto. Tsubaki turned in Naruto's arms, before rolling them over and throwing her hips over his waist. The fact both were naked and Naruto was hard as a piece of steel was ignored by Tsubaki. She traced the dragon tattoo on his left pec and admired the rabbit on his right pec. His familiars wanted to always be close to their master. Considering the meanings behind both tattoos/familiars, it was quite cute. I can't help it, said Tsubaki as she racked her nails across his chest. Naruto growled as he felt her grind her sex against his. Oh, how he wanted her so badly. Tsubaki smirked at Naruto. Even after living together for 5 years, she could still push his buttons. Tsubaki stopped and leaned down, kissing Naruto. Naruto returned the kiss with passion. The duo made out for a few moments before stopping. At this point, Naruto had his hands on her plump ass and she was wet. Remember our promise, Naruto, said Tsubaki. Until Sona is free, said Naruto. Tsubaki kissed Naruto, before getting up to go and shower. Once alone, Naruto lay down and glowered before helping himself. It was hard not to break a promise. And Naruto always kept his promises. Location, Ko Academy. Place, Student Council Room. Time, 1700. Sona sighed as she sat in her office. Any moment now Rias would appear in her office along with a representative from her sister. The door to her office opened. Turning her head, she saw her entire peerage enter the room. As they took up positions, Tsubaki and Naruto took their spots next to her. Barely a minute passed before the Citri circle appeared on the floor as two figures appeared out of it. The first figure was a rather large man, towering over even Lu at 6 feet 8 inches with muscle on top of muscle, lightly tan-skinned, a box cut, and a rather strong jaw. He wore black pants, a red shirt with black sleeves, and red boots. The woman next to him was the woman before him was tall, standing at 5 feet 10 inches, large D-cup breasts and legs that could go for days that were attached to an ass that many soldiers tried not to stare at lest they find themselves her newest toys for testing out pain-inflicting methods. Ice blue eyes, long crystal blue hair that reached her ankles, pale skin. Wearing a white double-breasted button-up dress with dark accents, and sleeves that was unbuttoned enough to show her cleavage and her tattoo off. Thigh-high black boots with sharpened heels, a military cap with a cross, a large black coat over that, and a long rapier that was more for slashing than stabbing. 1. Sona tried to keep her composure as she looked at two of her sister's peerage members standing before her. Wow, who's the babe and the giant, said Saji. The large man looked at Saji, making him freeze, before turning to Naruto. You need to get these kids under control, Naruto. As the disciplinary of Sona's peerage, that job falls to you when Lady Sona can't do it, said the giant. Is death partis Pyotr Rasputin, the deadliest queen and the invincible rook, said Sona, sweating. Pyotr-sensei, said Naruto, also sweating. Both is death, and Pyotr bowed to Sona. Sona-sama. It's good to see you again after so long, said his death, standing up and walking Sona before smiling at Sona and hugging her. It's good to see you again after so long, Sona-chan. Sona smiled before she hugged her back. It's good to see you again as well, auntie, said Sona. His death pulled back from the hug as she frowned. I'm sorry to say that we are here on behalf of your sister, acting as mediators for your meeting with Rias, said his death. So when does KFC arrive? Asked Naruto. 2. Before Sona could say anything else, another magical circle appeared on the ground, before a man and Tsubaki narrowed their eyes at the man. If anyone put him and Naruto side by side, they would think that they were brothers. Only the man was slightly taller, wearing a burgundy blazer with gold embroidery on the right with matching pants and black dress shoes. Underneath his open blazer is a white dress shirt that is not fully buttoned. Hey, who the hell are you? Asked Saji, summoning his scred gear, while Mommy drew a pair of pistols. The human world, I forgot how disgusting the wind and fire here was, said the man. We won't ask again, said Lu as he flexed his now revealed claws as Benia summoned her death scythe. Sona-chan, you need to train your servants or teach them some manners. Although you have quite the range of delectable girls. Are they perhaps a wedding gift? Although these low-class girls won't bring me pleasure for long, said the man, smirking. Naruto, Lu, and Saji rushed the man in feats of speed only to be stopped at a wall of ice appeared before them, stopping them. They broke off their attack and looked at the source of the ice and saw Esdeath with her hand on the ground. She looked up from her position with a glare in her icy blue eyes. "Enough!" yelled the queen, making all stop. "Riser-sama, I won't allow you to talk that way again." Riser smirked, before taking a seat. "I know better than to anger the one known as the deadliest queen in the underworld," said Riser. "Why have you come here, Riser?" asked Sona. "I've come to take you back to the underworld for our wedding," said Riser, getting up. "I may be forced to marry you, but the contract doesn't have a date specified." "I could wait till you're old and infertile," said Sona, trying not to smirk. "But the birth of child clause is still in effect. We have until your 200th year. I say, why wait, and let's get the practice in," said Riser, reaching for Sona, only for Sona to move away. "Sadly, I have no desire to marry you at all, much less bear you a child," said Sona. "If that is the case, then I'll take you back by force," said Riser, reaching for Sona again. Sona, to her credit, didn't even bat an eyelash as Riser found a hole in his head from Mommy using her rifle. Riser stumbled back a bit, but laughed as the hold healed. Naruto got before Sona and summoned a katana. The others around the room also prepared for a battle. "Come near Sona-sama again, and I'll put your name to the test," growled Naruto. "You have quite an interesting knight, Sona, to speak to his betters like that," said Riser. "What can I say? I got a deal of a lifetime when he joined me," said Sona. "And you also heard my knight say that he'll put your regeneration abilities to the test if you touch me. Naruto has never broken his word to me, and I can say that he won't break them ever." "So that's the way it's going to play," Riser, as the room began to get hotter as he increased his energy output. The room quickly reached 150 degrees before it was quickly brought back down to 70. Everyone looked at Esdeath, only her eyes were narrowed in anger, and her hand on her sword. Piter had also activated his Scred gear armor of the Colossus, increasing his height from 6 feet 6 inches to 7 feet 5 inches and covering his body in a type of armor. "I won't say it again," said Esdeath. "Since neither party can come to an agreement, Serafal Leviathan-sama has authorized me to issue a rating game challenge." Riser shrugged his shoulders. "I have no problems with that, however you're shy a full set, while I have all my pieces." A magic sosi appeared, allowing Riser's harem to appear. As the two sides stared each other down, battle plans were already underway in both leaders' heads. Aside from that, Naruto himself was planning a surprise for Riser. Location: Japanese Alps. Place: Gremery Villa. Time: 1300 September 1st. Riser had agreed to give the student council a handicap. Seeing as he was a veteran of the rating games at this point, it would be unfair to expect Sona to fight him. Riser was allowing them to train for 10 days, before the rating game was to take place. The members of the student council were hiking to their training grounds. Rias was allowing her to use her family's mountain villa as her training location. The group arrived at the villa around noon, and quickly settled. Once everyone dropped their gears, Sona called all of them to the day room. Once everyone took a seat around Sona, Tsubaki got them all tea and cake. "I think it's time I told you all about how I came into this contract," said Sona. This made everyone look at her in shock. It was well known to the peerage that Sona had another betrothal before Riser, but she ended that one with a chess match. Riser wasn't a fool and knew what Sona planned when she invited him over to talk about a chess match. He was adamant that he was going to marry a pureblood devil with status. Hence his rush to get Sona into a wedding dress. "This story starts when I was 10 years old, before Rias and I knew about our marriage contracts, when she was my best friend," said Sona as she started to remember the better days when Rias was her best friend. Flashback. A 10-year-old Sona followed after Rias as they ran around the citry fields. Esdeath and Grafia were watching over them on the orders of Serafal and Serzex. Sona and Rias often played together, at least 3 times a week. Both girls were the stars of their clans. It was only recently that both girls got their evil pieces, and both actually got surprised. Rias managed to have a mutated bishop piece and Sona a mutated knight piece. As the girls fell into the grass laughing, they reached out and grasped each other's hands as they looked up at the night sky. This was just another day in their lives. They were sure that nothing would ever change the way they thought about each other. "Hey Sona-chan, what kind of peerage are you going to build?" asked Rias. Sona smiled. "One built around the heart. All the powers and scared gears in the 3 realms mean nothing if you don't have the heart to back them up," said Sona. Rias nodded before she rolled onto her stomach. "I want a peerage of friends and like-minded individuals. Ones who won't compromise their integrity, even for my sake," said Rias. Sona smiled. We both have high goals for ourselves, Rias-chan, said Sona. Sona promised me that one day we'll have our own rating game, said Rias, holding out her pinky. Sona took the pinky. I promise, said Sona. Flashback end. Shortly after that, we were told by our families that we were engaged to other houses. Rias to Phoenix and myself to Furcas. I managed to beat the man I was to marry in a chess match a month after I was told. Riser heard about me beating his friend and had the contract recreated. For about a year after that, I hardly talked to Rias as she was obsessed with breaking the contract, said Sona, sighing. 2 weeks before I encountered Naruto was the day that Rias managed to trick me into taking her contract. How did she manage that? Asked Saji. There is a out clause that Rias exploited that I didn't know about. It was so ridiculous that most people wouldn't have thought about it, said Sona. To this day, I'm not even sure how she got her hands on the contract. Flashback. Rias sat across from Sona with Akino and Tsubaki joining them. They were drinking tea that Akino had made. Sona was happy to see her friend again. They even managed to allow their queens to meet. Although Rias also had a rook, but she was currently busy. Rias, I was surprised that you called me over, said Sona. Rias smiled. I haven't seen my best friend for almost a year. I wanted to see you, said Rias. So what's the occasion? Asked Sona, taking a sip of her tea. Are we going to play chess or one of your Japanese games that Sirzex brought you? 3. Oh right. There's this matter, said Rias, putting down the tea and fishing out a piece of paper and passed it to Sona. Sona picked it up and quickly skimmed through it. Ko-town? Asked Sona. That's right. Our families are allowing us to share control of the territory. I started looking at the area. It's quite large, said Rias. Sona reread the contract fully and nodded in understanding before she took a rock feather and dipped it in ink. As she started to sign her name, Tsubaki looked at Rias and saw her face, and saw that Rias smiled a smile that didn't seem right on her face. Tsubaki's eyes widened before turning to her mistress. Sona, stop! Yelled Tsubaki just as Sona finished signing. As she did, the contract glowed, before the seal of Gremory on the contract shattered and was replaced by the seal of Citri. Sona's eyes widened as she took the contract and felt a top layer over it. Ripping away, she looked at it, and her eyes widened. It was the contract of marriage between herself and Riser Phoenix. Sona looked at her friend and saw her smile and say one word. Freedom, said Rias. Flashback end. The conditions are as follows. It must be a high-class pure-blood devil from a clan and not an associate family. The female cannot be younger than the betrothed by 10 years. And finally, the female must willingly sign the contract to replace Rias, said Sona as she stood and looked out the dining room window. Everyone looked to their leader and understood her situation even better now. Naruto stood up and looked at Sona before getting to one knee and grabbing her hand. Sona blushed at this before she saw the others follow Naruto and kneeling before her. Sona-chan, I made a promise with Tsubaki years ago after you saved me from the streets. I would give my life to make any wish you have come true. Now I make this oath to you. I promise you that I will free you from Riser Phoenix or die trying. That is a promise of a lifetime, said Naruto. Sona smiled as tears spilled out of her eyes. Thank you, my Silver Knight, said Sona. Location, Ko Academy. Place, Student Council Office. Time, 11:30, Tuesday, September 11th. The 10 days came and went in a flash. Sona kept her people busy with a strict training schedule. Nothing was left to chance. Naruto made sure everyone was working as hard as they could, even Sona. Naruto also did extra training at night and spent time in the forge. Everyone was finishing their final touches before they went into battle. Sona's future was on the line here. Sona looked at one corner to see Momo standing next to Saji at the window. She could use her powers to listen into what was being said, but chose not to. Whatever was said was their business. If something came of it, then she would be happy for her peerage. Shaking her head, she looked at every member of her peerage. The glasses-wearing king sighed as she sat in her chair just looking at her peerage. She was prepared for the worst. In the case of a complete defeat, she would release her servants from their bondage. It was something all kings could do, but few did. It was considered a sign of weakness and failure to release one's peerage. She'd rather have that failure hanging over her head than Riser potentially raping the females of her peerage and killing the males. Sona, are you alright? Asked Naruto as he walked up to Sona. No, I'm scared that we'll fail, Naruto, said Sona, confiding in her. Knight. I know we've done all we can, but that doesn't stop the doubts from finding their way into my mind when I'm not focusing. Trust in your friends, Sona. We won't let you fall, said Naruto, placing a hand on her shoulder. Sona would never admit it, but Naruto's mere presence gave her peace of mind. She trusted all her peerage, but something about Naruto made her believe in her heart that she had a chance of winning, even though logic said otherwise. Sona looked at the clock and saw that it was 30 minutes to show time. Everyone gather around, said Sona, putting her fears in the depths of her mind. All conversation stopped as they walked over to Sona. She opened a map of the raiding game. They would be playing in a replica of the school. This was done to give Sona the advantage, as Riser had competed in 10 raiding games with only 2 loses. And those were due to favors owed. In short, Riser had never willingly lost a raiding game. Now here they were no true raiding game experience under their belts. Okay, so here's layout of the board. We will be stationed inside of the old schoolhouse as our base, while the student council room and the surrounding 100 feet above and below the area are considered Riser's base, said Sona. That sounds perfect. We know the school better than they do, said Saji. The greenhouse and the gym are the perfect areas to lay trains and start the game, said Ben-Nia with her mask on. Oh, that reminds me, said Naruto as he used a magic circle and summoned several small bracelets with hexagons on them. These are replicas of Silver Skin. They will protect you from at least Tier 4 magic and physical attacks, while only reducing the power behind Tier 5, 6, and 7 magic. Anything past that and they're useless. They also only last for 30 seconds. Use them wisely, said Naruto. Everyone took one and wrapped it around their wrist as Naruto summoned 2 more items. One was a blue hilt that looked like it belonged to a rapier, while the other was a short sword that looked like it was about 19 inches long with ice covering it. The blade was slightly curved downwards. One side of the blade was serrated while the other was just razor sharp. The interesting contrast to the blade was that the serrated part had a second layer that was hard to see, but if you looked closely you could see black blades lining up behind it. What is that? Asked Momo, looking at the sword. These are things I've been making in my forge for a little over a year now. Only Tsubaki has been in my forge to see these. The blade I've been making for over a year now and the hilt for a little over 6 months, said Naruto, handing the hilt to Sona. I call it Winter's Tragedy. It will respond to your magic only and will allow you to summon a sword of ice or water. I also made it to fit your style of fighting. Naruto, thank you, said Sona as she summoned a belt and clipped it to her right side. The room turned white as they were all teleported away. They reappeared in the middle of the student council room. They knew that they were in a separate dimension, due to the sky outside. Ruruko summoned her Buso Renkin and took up a position beside Sona, as did Lu. 2/3 of the strikers would be defending Sona, while Naruto, Saji, Ben-Nia, and Mami would make up the advance guard, with Momo and Tsubaki would make up the reserve unit. 30 minutes into the game, or after exactly 4 pawns, 1 knight, and 1 rook were defeated, they would move on to Phase 2. The raiding game between Lord Riser Phoenix and Lady Sona Citri is now underway, said Esteth. Sona took a breath and put on her game face, as did the rest of her peerage. Taking a seat at the desk, she summoned a chess board with pieces that looked like all her peerage and Riser's peerage. She then used a hologram spell to make it 3-dimensional. Let us play a game of chess, said Sona with a smile on her face as she picked up the piece that looked like Ruruko. Location, Ko Academy. Place, ORC Club Room. Time 0000, Wednesday, September 12th. Rias sat in the clubroom with her entire peerage as they prepared to watch Sona fight. As she watched what was about to happen on DevilTube, Rias felt slight regret putting her friend on this path. Rias shook her head. If she didn't set Sona on this path, it would be her facing Riser. Already the reputation of the House of Gremory had suffered in the eyes of the Elder Devil Council, and that made it harder on her brother. It didn't help matters that Sona had become stronger than Rias would give her credit for. Whatever the outcome of this fight, said Rias, making her peerage look at their master in confusion. Location, Fake Ko Academy. Place, Gym. Time 0020, Wednesday, September 12th. Naruto arrived at the gym prepared to defend it. Naruto had foregone the use of Silver Skin for the time being, as he knew that he would need all that power for when they fought Riser. The longest time Naruto could maintain Silver Skin was 28 hours without interruptions and 17 if he was running a battle gauntlet. Many people didn't know it, but Kakagane relied on mental focus and the energy of will to use and maintain. Ruruko knew this, and she knew that unlike Naruto, she had only 6 hours of battle time with her Buso Renkin. To prepare for this duel, he asked both Rina and Enju to prepare something special. Enju had already returned from doing her part, and was already off to prepare her next trap. Enju was much faster than the average knight, and was quite a good fighter with just her feet. If she ran into anyone, she would be able to take care of herself. The door on the opposite end of the gym opened and Naruto caught a glimpse of his opponents. So I got two Lolas with chainsaws, a Chun-Li wannabe, and a pole fighter more like pole dancer. I was sure KFC would come after me himself, said Naruto, creaking his neck. Don't underestimate those who are loyal to Rias-sama. I am Mira, yelled the girl, spinning her staff. The Chun-Li girl got into a stance. My name is Xiaolin, and I won't have you insult Rias-sama in my presence, said the Chun-Li girl. The twins revved their chainsaws. We are Al and Nell. Come play with yous, Mr. Knight, said the twins. Naruto smirked as he drew his new sword. Frost Pain. I'm glad I got such lovely ladies to keep me company. Now I'll get to test out my new weapon on you ladies. Please go easy on me, it's my first time, said Naruto, winking at them. Allow me, girls. I don't mind popping his cherry, said Mira, twirling her staff. But a threesome is so much better, said Xiaolin. Let us join in, said Al, grinning. Yeah. It's been a while since we got it good and proper, said Nell. Little girls shouldn't be so creepy, said Naruto. Mira was the first one to charge in and thrust her staff at Naruto. Naruto blocked with the flat of his sword before blocking a dual strike from the twins as the chains sparked as they clashed with his sword. Throwing them away, he blocked a strike from Xiaolin. Jumping back, he opened his hand and charged a bolt of lightning before firing it at Mira. Mira barely had a second to last before the attack struck, electrocuting her. Mira screamed in pain. Even though it was a tier 1 spell, it seemed that Mira didn't have a talent for magical defense. Naruto was forced to stop the lightning as he turned to the twins, stopping their attacks with Frost Pain. This was short-lived as he was sent flying by Xiaolin. Naruto flipped in the air and landed while rubbing his stomach. It looked like she focused on the strength aspect of the rook. Removing his ruined school blazer and shirt, he was left in just his pants, a black muscle shirt, and revealing a belt with his Kyuugeik on it as well as a few pouches. Putting a hand on the ground, Naruto made several spikes shoot at the girls. Xiaolin jumped before them and unleashed a wave of fire that stopped the spikes cold. Naruto charged in and met Mira, who went for a sweep with her staff only for Naruto to flip over it and kick her in the back. Mira yelled in pain as the twins charged Naruto in an attempt to end his life by cross-slashing him. Naruto slammed his hand onto the ground and made two walls appear blocking the attacks. How are you doing that? Yelled out, glaring at Naruto. Our intelligence says you need both hands to use alchemy, yelled Nell. Naruto smirked as he showed his left hand to the girls. There was a transmutation circle in the middle of his palm. Transmutation circles are Alchemy 101. I'm an alchemic blacksmith. That requires at least a mastery in the basics and adapt in the advanced teachings, said Naruto. Xiaolin growled at Naruto before changing at Naruto and doing a helicopter kick. Naruto managed to grab her leg before slamming her into the ground, making her gasp in pain. Naruto jumped away as Mira once again tried to bash him on the head with her staff. Naruto was getting fairly sick of this and cut the staff in two before hitting Xiaolin with the back of his sword, sending her flying once again. As he did, Xiaolin took advantage of this and hit Naruto with double flaming palms that sent him flying. Naruto hit the ground and skidded for a few moments before stopping. Naruto looked at Xiaolin with a grin. I got to say that I actually felt that one, said Naruto, putting both his hands on the hilt of his sword. I have to say that you're quite talented and beautiful. Too bad this has to end. Xiaolin blushed hearing this, but quickly regained her composure. Thank you for your kind words. Maybe if we weren't opponents we could see where that goes, but you're finished here, said Xiaolin. Sorry, I can't lose here, not to you. Yenji Urina. Now! Yelled Naruto as he vanished. The foursome looked at the spot he vanished, before the entire building caught fire. It wasn't regular fire either. It was black fire. Mira growled at the arrogance of the boy who just left. Did he not know that all of Riser's servants were protected from fire and wind-type damage? Rushing the door, she tried to throw it open, but was forced back by flames. What? I can't get through these flames, yelled Mira. Of course not, said Rina, appearing in the room as she took a seat in the bleachers. My flames come from the depths of hell itself. Only the flames of Amaterasu-sama are hotter and stronger than those of a dragon of the darkness, flame queens. So what, are we going to just burn? Asked Nell. Rina sighed. Sadly, my master is one for mercy, said Rina as she looked at a watch. Personally, I would have rather you burned, but my master is all about time management. You have 20 seconds until you're all eliminated. Enjoy your time, finished the dragoness as she vanished. The trio looked at each other, before the building light up in a burst of blue lightning and exploding. Naruto stood nearly 100 meters away with his hand on a circle as Enju sat munching on a carrot. Rina appeared next to Naruto. It's such a shame that you wanted to finish this quickly, said Rina. Riser Phoenix, 3 pawns retired. Riser Phoenix, 1 rook retired. Now I just have to hope that the others do their part, said Naruto as he looked in the skies and saw Riser's queen already on the march. Rina, how long can you delay her? I say that we're about even in strength and magic-wise. The only edge I have is that fire magic and combustion magic are useless against me. If she has anything else up her sleeves, then she might be able to stop me, said Rina. Run interference. I need to call Sona-sama, said Naruto as he turned to head back to the old school building. Rina took off after Riser's queen. Barely a minute later, black and orange explosions could be seen in the sky. Naruto touched his ear. Sona-sama, I've sent Rina after your Baluna. I'm not sure how much time she can buy us though, said Naruto. Understood. Naruto, activate Plan J2, and proceed to the track. We have confirmation that both of Riser's bishops are there. Lu will meet you there. Take them out as quickly as possible. Hi Sona-sama, said Naruto as he pulled out his Buso Renkin. Time to get a little serious. Enju, let's go. Enju appeared in her rabbit form on Naruto's shoulder before they vanished in a bolt of lightning. Location, Fake Co Academy. Place, the greenhouse. Time, 0045. The greenhouse occupied the rightmost limits of the entire playing field. The greenhouse was about half as large as the gym was and gave smaller forces the advantage in a fight. However, when the advance guard went out, it was decided by Sona and Tsubaki that Naruto was to go to the gym alone. Everyone looked at Sona as if she was crazy for that choice, but it made the most sense. Naruto had the highest defensive and offensive power in the peerage. Not many people could defeat him if push came to shove. Saji rubbed his head. I can't believe that guy managed to beat 4 of Riser's pieces alone. I got to catch up to him. They underestimated us. More importantly, they underestimated Nissan. They won't make that mistake again, said Benya leaning on her scythe. I'm actually looking forward to who they send after us here in the greenhouse, said Mommy, smiling. Good thing you don't have to wait long for us, girlie, said a female Terminator-looking chick as she was joined by a belly dancer and a pair of schoolgirl cats. Well, this is just going to be fun. I'll show you the strength of Genshiro Saji, the pawn of Sona Citri, said Saji, grinning as he prepared to fight along with his teammates. Location, Co Academy. Place, ORC Club Room. Time, 0045. Rias and her peerage were in a state of shock after watching Naruto absolutely destroy 4 of Riser's pieces in just a few minutes. Such power wasn't uncommon among devils, but normally it was those of high-class power or higher. Oh my god, OWWW! Yelled Asia, grabbing her head in pain. Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain, OWWW! Yeah, no kidding. He just wiped the floor with those chicks with ease, said Issei, thinking about how he would have defeated them using his new spell dress break. I never knew Naruto-kun was so savage. A girl can get wet thinking about it, said Akino, licking her fingers. Kaneko looked at the screen with interest. He's good, but why did it seem like he was holding back? Thought Kaneko. That sword is fascinating. Even using Sword Rebirth, I couldn't create something so powerful. He had to have built that from scratch, said Kiba, thinking how he would like that sword for his own. Rias crossed her arms under her breasts. He's strong, all right. Naruto is called the 100 Arms Knight, said Rias. Do you know why he's called that, Rias-sama? Asked Asia. Rias shrugged her shoulders. I don't know the details. Only Death-sama, Pyotr, Sona-chan, Tsubaki and Serafal-sama know why he's called that. Nicknames are a sign of the things that he did something amazing or has a power that is unique to him, said Rias. Location, Fake Co Academy. Place, greenhouse. Time, 0045. Mommy wasted no time and took off, prompting the belly dancer to follow her. Ruruko charged at the twins and began to attacking the twins. Saji summoned his whip and threw it at Terminator Woman. The Terminator named Isabella caught the whip and began to swing Saji around. Saji disengaged the whip and smirked. Thanks for the extra power, said Saji, charging in and throwing out a kick. Isabella stopped the kick by crossing her arms, but was shocked that he was much stronger than she anticipated. She raised her hand to attack, but was stopped as she felt something pierce her back. Looking behind her, she saw that Shiria, Marion and Burnett were all down. Mommy aimed at the 3 and unloaded several shots into them. Sorry, but we don't have a lot of time to waste on you guys, said Benya, jumping up and swing her scythe at Isabella's neck. Lord Riser Phoenix 3 pawns, retired. Lord Riser Phoenix 1 rook, retired. Alright girls, let's head back to Sona-sama, said Saji. It would be for the best if we make haste and return to Sona-sama, said Mommy as she began to reload her gun. Benya opened the door to the greenhouse and was greeted by Riser's queen, who was holding an unconsciousness Rina by the back of her kimono. Yubelina raised her hand and flared her magic, before unleashing a large ball of flames that exploded. Lady Sona Citri 1 bishop, retired. Lady Sona Citri 1 knight, retired. Lady Sona Stiri 1 pawn, retired. Location, Fake Co. Place, ORC Clubhouse. Time, 0050. Damn it, said Sona as she removed said pieces from the board. Are you alright, Ojo-sama? Asked Lu. No. The first plan to defeating Riser relied on Saji draining his energy. Now we have to switch to another plan, said Sona. Momo looked out the window as her eyes winded. Everyone run! Yelled Momo as she tried to run away from the window. She barely made it a few feet, before she was blasted in her back and sent flying out like a light. Lu rushed forward and tried to catch her as her body vanished. Lu growled as his hands became claws. Looking at the window, he saw a Riser floating there. Jumping out the window, he charged the man and slashed him across the chest. Riser kept his smile as if he wasn't even attacked as his body burned. Lu turned in midair and turned his left foot into a wolf's paw as it was charged up with lightning. Lightning crash! Yelled Lu, putting his foot to Riser's chest and sending him to the ground with a crash. Riser rose from the ground and flew at Lu, before grabbing him by his head and unleashing a point-blank rage explosion. Lu yelled in pain as Riser unleashed this attack several times of Lu, before throwing him to Tsubaki and Sona. Lu rose to his feet panting as he ripped away his shirt. Tsubaki, heal Lu and contact Naruto. I'll hold off Riser, said Sona, grabbing her hilt and creating a 37-inch blade made of ice. Hi, said Tsubaki as she put her hands over Lu. Kura! Burn! Tsubaki's hands turned blue as she tried to heal Lu. However, since Tsubaki wasn't a healer, her magic specialized in protective barriers, looking up from her task she saw that Sona was doing her best to hurt Riser, but each attack she dealt him was met with him healing himself. Thrusting at him one more time, Riser caught the blade in his bare hand as flames burst from the wound. This is going to get boring fast, Sona darling, said Riser, smirking. Allow me to spice things up a bit. Location, Fake Co. Place, track. Time, 0050. Naruto appeared before Riser's 2 bishops, 2 knights and 2 pawns wearing silver skin. Naruto raised a brow at this. Somehow the girls had been able to conceal their magic. He was already at a disadvantage thanks to that bitch Unibella. He knew that now the fight would have to be tipped so far in their favor victory would be the inevitable outcome. I was under the impression that it was just you 2 bishops, said Naruto. You can thank me for that, said a blonde-haired girl with drill pigtails, wearing a pink dress. And who might you be, Ojo-san? Asked Naruto as the woman wearing the full plate armor growled at him. You will address Lady Revel Phoenix with the proper respect she deserves, said the knight. Phoenix? Said Naruto before looking at the girl. Now that he looked closer, she did look a lot like KFC. Don't tell me that KFC is into incest? Revel blushed as the girls of the peerage charged at Naruto, intent on harming him for his disrespect. Naruto drew his sword, blocking the twin slashes of the girls, before throwing them off, before doing a back kick and catching one of the maids in the stomach. As she began to vanish. Lord Riser Phoenix 1 pawn retired. All the girls looked at Naruto in awe. To one-shot any member of Riser's peerage with raw strength was just unheard of. Naruto took advantage of their momentary lapse and charged up Frost Pain. Thanks to the runes in Frost Pain, it took in surrounding excess magics and stored it for use. Fire magic was hard for it to absorb, but it managed. Now it had enough magic power for 3 or 4 for its named attack. Icy Broost! Yelled Naruto, slamming the blade into the ground, unleashing several spikes of ice. Each one pierced the girl, making them scream in pain as they were all retired. All except Revel, who the attack missed. What the hell? Asked Revel. Naruto looked at Revel. I'd rather not hurt a little kid if I can avoid it. You're only what, 12? Revel blushed in rage. I'm 15, you asshole! Yelled Revel, throwing a fireball at him. Naruto blocked the attack with ease. Just retire please, said Naruto. I'd hate to have to hurt such a cute girl. Revel blushed and began to spit out nonsense. Before another word could be said, an explosion could be heard in the distance. Naruto looked in the direction of the smoke and narrowed his eyes. He vanished in a burst of speed, hoping to get to Sona and the others before it was too late. Location: Fake Co. Place: outside the ORC clubhouse. Time: 0055. Sona summoned a water wall blocking a ball of fire thrown by Riser. Riser was floating in the air with his flaming wings and was having a ball. He had managed to defeat Lu, even though Lu managed to put up a fight. Tsubaki was a few feet away from her trying to heal her burned arm. Really, Sona dear, it would be easier to just give up, said Riser. Sona didn't replay and jumped into the air, before slashing at Riser with her sword. Riser blocked the attack with his arm, but the sword was sharp enough and could enough to sever said arm, but Sona paid for it with a kick to the gut that launched her into the roof. Riser looked at his arm as it regrew a few seconds later. Riser floated over to Tsubaki and gripped her chin in his hand. Maybe I'll make Sona watch me take your virginity, before I take hers, said Riser with a smirk. Get your hands off her, yelled Naruto, spearing Riser and taking them both to the ground 3 floors below. The two of them hit the ground hard. Naruto rolled off Riser and stood in a fighting stance. Riser's entire body burst in flames, healing all his wounds before getting up. He looked at Naruto, before he threw a fireball at him. Naruto took the full brunt of the attack, but it did little to Naruto thanks to Silver Skin. Naruto charged at Riser and did a full punch into Riser's face. Riser grit his teeth, before firing back his own punch into the armored face of Naruto. Naruto wasn't even affected as he threw a knee into Riser's gut. Riser gasped in pain. Riser looked at Naruto, before he flew into the air and pulled back both of his hands before throwing dual fire tornadoes at Naruto. Naruto took the attack with ease, before he vanished and appeared before Riser, grabbing his head and headbutting him in the head. Riser felt his nose break before he grabbed Naruto and unleashed a point-blank range burst of flames that exploded. Naruto was blasted away and skidded several feet away and crashed through a tree. The blonde-haired knight rose from the ground and shook the dust off his body. He glared at Riser from under his hat, before he charged at Riser, but as he did he drew his sword and slashed at Riser. The blade cut into Riser's side, making him scream in pain, before he backed away holding his side as it healed. What kind of sorcery is that? Asked Riser as his right eye began to twitch in anger. Naruto put the sword on his shoulder. Even though it's hard to hurt you, you can still feel pain. I designed this sword with your regeneration in mind. I've known this fight was coming for 5 years and I've been preparing for this fight for 2 years. I'm going to keep my promise to Sona and kick your ass, said Naruto before he jumped into the air and charged at Riser again. Naruto slashed at Riser, but Riser threw up a wall of fire trying to block the attack. Naruto gripped the sword with both hands before swinging it from the side. Icy burst, yelled Naruto as the blade and fire connected. A mist of cold air blew out of the sword, extinguishing the flames. Riser growled as he looked at Naruto with utter rage in his eyes. Everything he did was negated and that sword could hurt Riser. He was running out of options and he needed to end this. Riser looked at Sona before smirking. Sure, this was a bit of a gamble, but he needed to win this fight. Riser flew at Sona and Tsubaki before he began to gather all his energy, as he took the form of his name Shake and turned into a 20-foot-long bird with large wings and hovered as an orb of flame surrounded the entire area. Ravel looked at her brother in fear, knowing what he was planning. Riser's full magic capacity topped off at Tier 6, however he had found a way to bypass that little limitation. A way he had been working on for over 4 years. Phoenix down, whispered Ravel in fear. I can't believe you forced me to use my trump card. Sona, I hope you realize this isn't nothing personal, but your knight is just too damn annoying for my liking, laughed Riser. Naruto burst through the flaming sphere and slashed at Riser. Icy burst, yelled Naruto as he unleashed pure cold at the bird. The sword went through the flames, but didn't extinguish them. What the hell? Yelled Naruto as he had to jump back as he felt the heat of the flames were stronger than 7th tier magic. Riser began to laugh. Surprised. This is Phoenix down. My ultimate devil move. By turning my body into this form I become impervious to physical and magical attacks. My demonic powers rise to super level and I regenerate 100% of my health, even though I will lose all my magic for an entire day. Everyone in this sphere will be destroyed. Naruto growled at Riser. Damn you, Riser! The flames became hotter as Sona, Tsubaki, and Ravel all fell to the knees gasping and trying to breath. Even though Ravel was a phoenix, she had nowhere near the demonic energy Riser did. Naruto was being affected himself, but thanks to Silver Skin he was able to take it. Naruto didn't even think about what his next move would be. Limit break, silver skin maximum double, yelled Naruto as he pulled out a second Kakegame. Sona began to cough as she clung to Tsubaki. Ready to accept that she was going to lose, Sona prepared to wake up in a hospital. Only to stop as the air began to cool around her. Looking up, she saw that she had silver skin over both Tsubaki and herself as the flames that surrounded them began to grow more intense. Ravel looked at her hands with silver skin. Alt was surrounding her. What's going on? I can't feel any of the flames, said Ravel as she looked at Naruto. Naruto, said Tsubaki in worry. Limit break silver skin maximum, said Naruto as he stood unprotected in the middle of the flames, small wounds licking his skin. My trump card for super tier magic. I can only use it once a day, even if I'm using 2 of them. The girls looked at Naruto as the sphere began to get smaller. Naruto, what are you doing? Yelled Sona as she tried to get to Naruto, only for Tsubaki to stop her. Naruto, bow out or you'll die, yelled Tsubaki as she began to cry herself. They're right. Even I wouldn't survive my brother's strongest attack, said Ravel, looking at the man who had earned her respect. Naruto smiled. Sorry, but I'm not going to go out like that. This is the resolve of a knight of Sona Citri, said Naruto as he threw out his arms, grinning, as the flames consumed them all and exploded. I surrender, yelled Sona with tears in her eyes. Location: Ko. Place: Naruto and Tsubaki's house. Time: 1700 Saturday. Naruto awoke and shot up from the bed. He grimaced as he gripped his side in pain. Don't move around too much. You're still injured, came Sona's voice from beside him. Naruto looked at Sona as she sat in a chair reading one of his alchemy books. He tried to get out of bed, but was stopped by Sona pushing him down gently. What happened? Asked Naruto, looking at the ceiling. Sona didn't meet his eyes. Riser happened. That attack he used Phoenix down was a lot stronger than anyone else were prepared for. I had no idea that he even had something like that in his arsenal, said Sona. Naruto frowned. I'm sorry I failed you, Sona-chan, said Naruto, looking down. Sona smiled. You haven't called me that in years, Naruto, said Sona. Naruto smiled. Yeah. It wouldn't be appropriate to address my master so informally. Remember when his death chased us around the manor? Asked Naruto. Only because you bumped into her, making her drop her shaved ice, said Sona as she began to laugh. The duo laughed for a few moments before they stopped. The mood was cheery, and if they could, they would make this moment last forever. But sadly, that was not the case. Both knew that they were living in a bubble of burrow time that was about to pop any moment. I'll be trading everyone to my mother, said Sona, shocking Naruto. My mother never had a desire to use her pieces and had a full set. She's taking everyone on at my request. She'll protect you all, and you'll never have to worry about Riser the day after our wedding, before Riser can get his hands on any of my friends. Sona-chan, said Naruto. Sona leaned down and kissed Naruto on the lips. Naruto's eyes widened as Sona kissed him. The kiss was tender and sweet. Naruto reached up with his hand and nearly cupped Sona's face, but stopped and lowered his hand back to the bed. After nearly a full minute, Sona pulled away with a small blush on her face and a smile. That was my first kiss, said Sona with tears appearing in her eyes. Why, Sona-chan? Asked the stunned blonde. I wanted to do one thing for myself before I must marry Riser, said Sona, standing to her full height. In 2 days the wedding will take place. All members of our peerage are expected to appear. I want you to stay away, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened. I can't do that, Sona-chan. I'm your knight. Your sword, your shield, your sworn protector, said Naruto. Sona turned away from Naruto. Naruto, please don't make this any harder than it already is, said Sona as she walked out. Naruto roared in rage and sorrow as his fist went through the wall several times. Sona heard her knight's cry, but couldn't bring herself to enter into the room and comfort him. As Sona walked down the stairs, she found a sigh at her throat. Looking to her side, she saw Benya standing there, her normally sleepy eyes narrowed in such a way that she was releasing all her demonic power in her eyes. Sona looked out the edge of her eye at the Reaper. What are you doing? Asked Sona. Give me one good reason I shouldn't reap your soul and give it to the primordial death Citri, said Benya. I only did what I thought was best, said Sona. Benya gripped her scythe harder and was shaking. By breaking Nisan's heart? Asked Benya, getting angry. I didn't want to, but Naruto would charge into the room full of high and ultimate class devils and do something reckless and get himself killed. He's proven that he gives no thoughts to his own safety in the past. Once when we were younger, Naruto fought a spirit golem to protect Tsubaki and myself. He nearly died that day. No matter what, Naruto has always protected me. This time I'm going to protect him from himself. Benya lowered her scythe and looked at the ground. This sucks, said Benya. Sona put her hand on Benya's shoulder. Yeah, it does, said Sona. Location: Ko. Place: Naruto and Tsubaki's house. Time: 1400 Sunday. Naruto sat in his home at his table, glaring at the invitation that was his. His master would be marrying Riser in just a few short hours. Despite his planning, despite his equipment, despite his will, he had failed his master, one of the people he cared a great deal for. He gripped the invitation in his hand in a fit of rage, before throwing. Naruto Oniai-chan, said Enju, walking up to him and hugging him. Rina also hugged him from behind. It will be alright, master, said Rina, deciding not to tempt him currently. Naruto tried to hold back his tears, but failed as they just came flooding out of his eyes. Naruto grabbed both Enju and Rina and hugged them as if they were his last anchor to life itself. Naruto wasn't sure how long he cried, but just as the waterworks stopped, a magic circle appeared, along with Pyotr. He was dressed in a tux. Naruto, why are you not dressed? Asked Pyotr, looking at his watch. The ceremony starts in about 2 hours. Take a hike, Colossus. I failed my friends, I failed Sona. I don't have the right to look at them, said Naruto. Pyotr nodded, before taking a seat. 4 or 5 moments, said Pyotr. What? Asked Enju as Rina and Naruto looked at him as well. 4 or 5 moments is all it takes, said Pyotr again. What the fuck does that even mean? Asked Naruto. In this life there are 4 or 5 moments that define a person. What you do with those moments is up to you. The rating game was not one of your moments. That invitation is, said Pyotr, standing up and preparing to walk out. You know, devils are not heroes, we are what we are. Naruto contemplated his words. He looked at the invitation on the table, before picking it up. Dropping it back on the table, Naruto walked upstairs into his closet. Rina and Enju followed after him, and quickly found him getting dressed. Location: Underworld. Place: Phoenix Manor. Time: 1500 Sunday. Sona looked in the full mirror and looked at the dress that she was wearing, a knee-length white dress that came over her breasts, but left her shoulders bare, white stockings, and white heels that had a strap around her ankles, pull-on sleeves, and a gold glasses. I knew I'd see you in a wedding dress one day, I just always thought that it would be to a different person, said a voice behind her. Standing there looking at her in the mirror was Seraphol, wearing a blue floor-length dress that hung off her right shoulder, a pink sash, black heels. Sister? Said Sona, turning to her sister. I thought you wouldn't make it. Seraphol walked up to her sister and hugged her. Why wouldn't I make it to my sister's wedding? Said Seraphol. Sona sighed as she took a seat. I don't want to marry him, said Sona, holding back tears. Sarah hugged her sister from behind. It's all right, Sona. Go ahead and let it out, said Seraphol. Sona began to cry, before she turned into the arms of her sister and began to wail, thick tears falling from her eyes. At this moment, she wasn't a king, she wasn't the heiress to the house of Citri, she was just a 17-year-old girl. Seraphol held her sister close. Seraphol hoped that something good could come from this loveless marriage. Location: Phoenix Manor. Place: Ballroom. Time: 1600 Sunday. As Riser talked with several people, Tsubaki glared at him even as several men propositioned her for a good time. Honestly, while she could tolerate stupidity, devils didn't play by the rules of consent as most human countries did. Tsubaki was of Japanese descent, so she always knew that the age of consent was 18. Of course, she had been sharing a bed with Naruto from time to time. The doors opened and Sona came in as the main appreciation. Tsubaki looked at her friend and wanted to admire her beauty, but knew that said beauty was caged now. Many clapped as they saw Tsubaki walking down the stairs as Riser walked to meet his bride-to-be. You look lovely in the dress, Sona, said Riser, before leaning down next to her ear so that only she could hear. It will look even better on my floor tonight. Sona kept her mouth shut so as not to ruin this joyous occasion. As Riser reached out with his hand to take his new bride and show her off, the large double doors opened up, allowing the world to see who had arrived. Sona's eyes widened as he looked at her, Knight, standing there. An orange button-up, black slacks. Naruto, said Sona, looking at her, Knight. What are you doing here, reborn? Asked Riser, though gritted teeth. Naruto held up his invitation. As a member of Sona Citri-sama's peerage, I was invited to the party to show support for my master in this moment of her life, said Naruto. Riser smirked. So you've come to watch your master wed a noble? Asked Riser. Since you seem to have done that, how about I set you up with one of mine for the evening? Mira expressed an interest in you. Said you were stronger than she thought. Sorry, but I have no want or need of your sloppy seconds, said Naruto as he closed his eyes as he reached into his jacket and pulled out a scroll. Not really. I'm here to declare a devil's challenge, said Naruto before unrolling the scroll showing a. The room grew quiet hearing this. A devil's challenge hadn't been used in nearly 500 years. It was a way for devils to settle a dispute when negotiations broke down, the predecessor to the rating game that had more serve ramifications than one's ranking or position. It was also a way for bets to be settled between devils. Naruto-san, what is the meaning of this? Asked Seraphol with a frown. Easy. I issue a devil's challenge to Riser Phoenix of the House of Phoenix for the right to have Sona's hand in marriage, said Naruto. Seraphol raised an eyebrow at this. I cannot allow this, Naruto-san. As this is a marriage between noble families, unless you have something to offer, I will have no choice but to force you to stand down, said Seraphol. Naruto smiled as he opened a small portal and pulled out a container that held all of the Kakegane. You put up the contract for the marriage to Sona and I'll put up not only the Kakegane in existence, but also the blueprints to make more, said Naruto. Riser opened his mouth to talk, but was stopped by another more regal voice. That sounds quite interesting, but with you offering two rather coveted items in the forms of both the Kakegane and its blueprints, I think it only fitting that we offer something extra as well, the hand of my youngest child, said the Lady Fia Phoenix. Fia looked a lot like Ravel, only taller and with D-cup breasts. She wore a burgundy and black Victorine dress that showed a deep valley between her breasts. Mother, this is foolish, said Riser looking at her as if she lost her mind. Fia looked at Riser and silenced him with a single look. Normally I'd agree with you, my son, but Uzumaki here managed to defeat most of your peerage by himself. Not to mention that he protected your sister from your strongest attack, said Fia. Mother, we were in the middle of a rating game. Ravel was safe, said Riser. Actually, that's not quite true, said Seraphol. The attack you used went beyond 7th tier. If Sona didn't surrender when she did, Naruto-san would die within a few seconds. Not only that, but Ravel-chan would have also met an unfortunate end. Riser grit his teeth before turning to Naruto. Fine, I accept the challenge. As per the rules, I as the challenge get to decide the terms of battle. My terms are simple. You and I in a one-on-one duel to the death, said Riser. Naruto smirked. I accept the terms. Just know that I don't plan on holding back anything, said Naruto. Location, dueling arena. Place, duel arena. Time, 1630. Naruto stood across from Riser without silver skin on. In his hands was frost pain. Riser stood across from him. His death stood between them, before dropping her hand and vanishing. Naruto rushed Riser and slashed him across the chest. Riser grit his teeth in pain as the flames healed him. He threw a flaming punch at Naruto. Naruto vanished and appeared behind Riser, cutting him in the back, making his yell in pain. Riser did a spinning backhand and sent Naruto away from him with ease. Naruto righted himself in the air and landed on his feet. Riser took this moment to charge at Naruto and managed to hit Naruto with a flaming kick. Naruto grit his teeth and cut Riser's leg off. Riser backed away as the flames restored his leg. Riser took to the skies above. Naruto slammed Frost Pain into the ground as he held his hands apart and began to generate lightning. Great Surge Lightning! Yelled Naruto, unleashing a blue-white bolt of lightning from his hands. Phoenix Tornado! Yelled Riser, throwing both hands forward and creating a swirling tornado of yellow and orange flames. The two attacks clashed and exploded, creating a heated mist that covered the field of battle. Naruto grabbed Frost. Naruto appeared before Riser again with Frost Pain held in front of him. Icy Tundra! Yelled Naruto, unleashing a wave of ice and cold at Riser. Phoenix Wall! Yelled Riser, unleashing a rust of flames that collided with the freezing ground and air, stopping it in the center. Interesting. I was under the impression that you didn't use any named attacks, said Naruto, taking a stance. Riser didn't say anything as he opened his palms and began throwing fireballs at Naruto. Used Frost Pain to block the attacks as he went for his belt and grabbed his white Kakegane. He wordlessly activated it and stopped blocking the flames. Rise stopped the flames as he glared at Naruto. Already he was annoyed by the reborn trash, but now he was mocking him. Since his strongest base energy couldn't hurt him at all, he would up the ante. He was going to finish this reborn off. Riser allowed his flames to heat up as his entire body caught on fire. Naruto looked at Rias as he vanished and appeared in front of Naruto, hitting him with a wicked right cross. Naruto felt as if he had been hit by a sledgehammer as he rocketed away and hit one of the walls. Rolling out of the wall, Naruto's hat fell on the ground as he undid the top part of his coat, showing a burning bruise. Naruto wiped the blood from his mouth as he was forced to roll out of the way of a flaming axe kick that melted the bricks. Naruto righted himself before the gloves receded, and he clapped his hands together, created a wall as dozens of spikes launched from it. The spikes hit Riser, but they did little to the youngest Phoenix son as he made his way to Naruto. Naruto charged at Riser and stomped the ground as he pulled back his right fist, allowing lightning to coat his fist. Uzumaki lightning crush straight! Yelled Naruto, throwing out one of his strongest attacks. Riser crossed his arms, blocking the attack, but the force was enough to send him backwards and away from Naruto. Riser stopped almost 0 feet away from Naruto before he used his flames to disperse the lightning. Naruto charged at Riser using his natural speed as Riser did the same. The two men began an exchange of blows with their respective element. Thanks to Silverskin, Naruto was receiving less damage than Riser, however Riser's high-speed regeneration more than made up for it. The two men broke apart panting. While Riser was healing, he was still affected by the damage. It took a toll on not only his demonic energy reserves, but his stamina as well. The youngest male Phoenix glared at his opponent. "Where did all this power come from? You didn't have it during the raiding game," yelled Riser. Naruto chuckled before spitting out a glob of blood. "I've always been remarkably strong. Most of your peerage was weak enough for me to beat without using my alchemy or lightning-based abilities. Had I gotten to you before you got to Sona, we would have won. Seeing as how you got to her and unleashed your strongest attack, I had no choice but to use not only my own trump card, but protect all 3 ladies involved. Now that you and I are alone, I can go wild. Limit break, Silverskin maximum double," yelled Naruto, allowing Silverskin to reach its current maximum power while summoning a second Silverskin. "Please, this little trick won't stop me from winning," yelled Riser. "Silverskin, straight jacket mode," yelled Naruto. This Silverskin began to break down and fly at Riser in waves. The hexagons swirled around Riser before they constricted on him and bound his body. Riser tried to access his powers, but was stunned to find that he couldn't use his demonic power. He looked at Naruto, who was smirking. Naruto vanished and appeared before Riser, before hitting him with an uppercut that rocked Riser's entire world and sent him flying. Naruto vanished and appeared in his path with his right fist cocked back, lightning that was formed into the head of a dragon with dark flames also flickering in and out. "Uzumaki special, limit break punch!" yelled Naruto as he punched Riser square in the chest. Riser spat out blood as he was sent to the ground with so much force he broke the sound barrier and smashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. Naruto landed on the ground and fell to a knee as Silverskin faded. He rose to his feet and looked at his right fist. All the bones in said hand were broken and his flash was burned. Naruto walked over to the crater where Riser was and looked in it. Riser sat there, Silverskin all barely hanging on Riser's mangled body. The only thing keeping him alive was his passive healing. Riser looked at Naruto with fear. "What the hell are you?" asked Riser. Naruto looked at him. "I'm just a knight, trying to protect his king from any who would force her to do something against her will," said Naruto. Winner Uzumaki Naruto. Location, Phoenix Manor. Place, ballroom. Time, same time as end of fight. Sona had tears in her eyes as she fell to her knees. Seraphal, Tsubaki, Ruruko, Mami, and Benya surrounded the crying girl. FIA sighed in defeat, but had a smile on her face as well. Even though Riser had lost, they still gained something from this. Namely, a union between a feature-heavy hitter and creator of the Kakagane. Any children Ravel and Naruto had would be quite powerful. In FIA's mind it was an equivalent exchange. No, it was better. After all, she herself was a practitioner of alchemy. She summoned the contract from the Phoenix Vaults and walked over to Sona. "Congratulations on your freedom, Sona-chan. As promised, here is the contract between yourself and Riser. Naruto's name has replaced Riser's and is legally binding in the underworld. Have fun on your wedding night. Oh, as a woman who has been married for almost 300 years, it helps if you take other women into your bed," said FIA, winking at Sona before she and Ravel walked away. Sona smiled at her friends as she got to her feet. She had a fiancé to go see. Location, Kyoto. Place, training. Time 0400 Monday. A figure sat on a rock drinking a bottle of sake. He had sun-kissed blonde hair, blue eyes, and tan skin. His face was rather angular, and if you weren't looking at his front you'd swear he was a woman. He wore a long-sleeved blue shirt, blue jean pants, and a white jacket with red flames on the back and golden letters with the words Yellow Flash. Taicho, said a figure appearing his sensing range. We have news from the underworld, said another figure. Correction, 2 figures. What is it, Shusoikin Okwa-chan, said the man. It concerns your son Namikaze Taicho, said the young man. Minato turned on the rock and smiled at the 2 17-year-olds that had joined the Kyoto Special Forces not that long ago. Do tell. After all, I want to hear what my son has been up to after not seeing him for nearly 16 years, said Minato. Location, Ko Town. Place, Naruto and Sona's new house. Time 0800 Monday. The light snores of Naruto and Sona could be heard in the master bedroom of Naruto and Sona's new home. Apparently it was supposed to be a wedding gift from Serafall. Now it was Naruto and Sona's place. It was a pretty massive place. It was a 3-story house with about 14 rooms, a massive pool/backyard, and a large front yard. Both Naruto and Sona were naked as the day they were born. Shortly after arriving, Naruto and Sona showered together before going to bed. Yesterday was emotionally exhausting for Sona and physically for Naruto. Neither had done anything aside from kiss and lightly group each other for their victory. The other girls allowed Sona to have Naruto to herself for the night, since it was supposed to be a celebration for them. They had sleep for several hours, but for now they were content. At least for that moment. The door to the room burst open with a crash as Sona and Naruto jumped out of their sleep. Standing at the door was a grinning Serafall, wearing her magical girl Leviathan outfit. Sister, why the hell did you barge into my room? Yelled Sona, trying to cover herself up with the bedsheet. Serafall ran over to Naruto and Sona. You two need to get dressed and outside in 20 minutes. I'm collecting on Naruto's promise to me, said Serafall, kissing Naruto on the cheek. I'll see you guys later or else I'm gonna be late. Serafall ran out of the room. Sona looked at Naruto with her eyes narrowed. What promise did you make her, my dear future husband? Asked Sona. Naruto swallowed as he put his hand on the back of his head while giving his fiancée a nervous smile. I kinda sorta promised Serafall sama thought he wanted to dapper into production of Tenya Magical Girl Leviathan movie. Rushed out Naruto, hoping that Sona wouldn't catch what was said. To Naruto, Sona was freaking frightening when she was pissed. Unfortunately for Naruto, Sona broke it down rather quickly. You did what? Yelled Sona with her demonic aura flaring as she grabbed her saber hilt with the intent to do harm to her knight/fiancé. Explosions could be heard throughout the house for the next 5 minutes. Location, Ko Town. Place, empty parking lot. Time, 0845. The production of the movie was actually taking place in Ko as requested by Sona's manager/queen. Serafall had a different schedule than any of the other Satans. While Serzex dealt with the domestic issues which made him and occasionally her buck heads with the Devil Elders and Old Guard, Serafall herself didn't have much in the way of meetings or paperwork unless it involved another faction. Her last meeting was with the European werewolves. That was over 2 months ago. Now it was just maintaining relations and settling disputes when they arose, which were surprisingly few and far between at the moment. Everything was set in an open parking lot set for the opening of the movie. Naruto stood in a replica of silver skin, only instead of it being silver it was white in color with black lining, a sword attached to his belt. Currently his hat was off and he stood next to Sona. Sona was dressed in a shoulderless blue leotard that gave a good lift to her breasts, which for some reason had grown overnight to large D-cup thigh-high boots, bicep-length gloves, with metal rings attached to them at the wrist, and a rapier as her weapon. 1. I can't believe in exchange for the materials you used to make Frost Pain you promised sister that we would appear in her move, said Sona with a blush. Naruto chuckled. Naruto had been an on-again off-again character that appeared 2 to 6 times a season since season 3. Even considering that magical girl Leviathan was on her 8th season. Most fans had never been able to figure out who the mysterious guardian of magicals was. Even though this movie was supposed to tie into why he wasn't around often to save Leviathan. That was saying a lot since Serafall loved playing victim when Naruto was in an episode. As recent as the season 5 finale, the bottom of Naruto's face had been revealed to the public when Serafall kissed him. Yes, Sona, Tsubaki, Benya, and Ruruko were none too pleased by that little scene. If it's any consultation, you look cute when you're huffed up, said Naruto, smiling at Sona. Sona blushed hearing her, knight, say that and looked away from him. Don't change the subject, Naruto-kun. You're going to be sleeping on the couch for a week, growled out Sona. Sona-tan, Naruto-tan. yelled Serafall, running up to the duo and hugging them, making many members of the production crew, both male and female, glare at Sona and Naruto since they caught her eye and not them. Piter and Isdeath were present as well, Isdeath doing her duty as manager and Piter acting as her bodyguard. "Sister, this isn't appropriate," yelled Sona, blushing as her sister's breasts rubbed against her own, arousing Sona's. Serafall let of her sister as she began to jump around like an excited child. "I can't help it. I'm just so excited that Naruto-tan and So-tan are going to be in my movie," yelled Serafall. Both groaned as they were in for an afternoon of hell. Isdeath and Piter sighed at their king, already quite used to her antics. 3 hours would pass after shooting the first few scenes. Naruto was currently away taking a water break, drinking some water. Naruto had his jacket off and set it on a table. A few people had gathered to watch. Currently Naruto wasn't needed on set, leaving him alone. Naruto wore a black shirt and black fitted pants that were used for his costume. He looked up to the crowd and caught the eyes of a female watching him. She was a beautiful girl. She stood at 5 feet 6 inches and a slender frame with C-cup breasts, gray blue eyes, and long, straight, Heim-cut dark brown hair. A slightly sharp chin. If Naruto had to classify her, she would be the same type of beauty that Tsubaki or Akino, who were both often called traditional Japanese beauties. A pale yellow dress with puffy shoulder sleeves, a collar with a blue tie, a white petticoat, brown shoes, and a green armband on her left arm. The girl smiled at Naruto before she waved at him as she began to walk away. Naruto followed after the girl. They walked nearly a mile away from the production set before Naruto flared his energy, making the girl stop at the top of a small flight of stairs. The girl turned to him. "I'm glad you decided to follow me, Namikaze-san," said the girl. "It would have been a bit of a problem if you didn't." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "How do you know that name?" "Even Sona and Tsubaki don't know my full name," said Naruto, thinking about one of the few things that either girl knew about him. "We know your full name because we were told your full name," came another voice. Naruto looked behind him to find a boy standing there. He stood tall at 5 feet 11 inches and was of slender frame like the girl, but Naruto could feel the energy rolling off the boy, with gray-blue eyes similar to the girl's, and black hair with a long fringe and frames his face down to his mouth at the sides, wearing a black unbuttoned jacket with an upward collar, white shirt and black trousers. On his right shoulder was a kendo case. "I didn't even feel him enter my range," thought Naruto. "Our apologies, Namikaze-san. We are here on the orders of our benefactor. I am Hayakasa Shushi, 17 years old and captain of the Gensei Private Academy Kendo Club," said the male, giving a small bow. "My name is Hayakasa Uka, 17 years old and the elder twin of my little brother and myself. I am also the student council president of Gensei Private Academy," said the girl, bowing. "Too. So why did you both get me here alone?" asked Naruto. "We were asked to deliver this to you, Namikaze-san," said Shushi, taking out a letter and throwing it at Naruto. Naruto caught the letter and looked in the direction of the boy, only to find him gone. Naruto turned to find him at the top of the stairs, standing next to the girl, both of them looking down at him. "What was that? I couldn't even feel him move," thought Naruto, gritting his teeth. "We'll be in town for a while. We are on a school trip after all," said Uka, leaning forward while putting her hands behind her back. "We'll wait for your answer at the tower tonight at midnight for your answer to the letter. Know that if you do not come, I will come for you personally, and you don't want that, Namikaze-san," said Shushi. Taking his kendo case, Shushi removed the casing, revealing a katana that was strange. The back side of the sword had red teeth that were slightly squared and curved forward, and a silver blade on the underside. The hilt was red, wrapped with white silk. 3. With a wave of his sword, he unleashed a powerful wind attack down the stairs. Naruto clapped his hands and threw them forward, stopping the attack with a barrier. Stopping his defense, Naruto looked at the area that the two were at. They were gone. Naruto cursed as he looked at the letter in his hand. Ripping open the letter, Naruto quickly skimmed through it before he narrowed his eyes. "So you're here in Koha, Minato? I'm going to make you wish that you stayed away from me, you son of a bitch," said Naruto, crushing the letter in his hand as his blue eyes crackled with lightning. Location: Ko. Place: Naruto and Sona's home. Time: 1145. Naruto lay in bed looking at the digital clock on the wall. It read 11:20. Looking at Sona, who was sleeping soundly, Naruto gently moved a stray piece of hair from her face and out of her eyes. Naruto smiled at her, before giving her a soft kiss on the forehead. "Sorry, Sona-chan. But this is something I can't have you and the others get involved in this," said Naruto. Naruto rolled out of the bed. He kept thinking about what the letter said as he pulled out black track pants with an orange strip, an orange shirt with a picture of Vegeta on it that said "Try me," I'll make you famous on the front. Naruto opened the front door and walked out quickly, making his way out of the house and activated a teleportation spell, before vanishing. Unknown to him, 3 figures saw him vanish into the night. Location: Ko. Place: Ko Tower. Time: 1159. Shushi stood at the top of the tower along with his sister, and Minato sitting in a chair reading a book. The twins were no longer wearing their school clothes. Shushi was wearing his kendo gi with arm bracers and straw sandals. Uka was more inclined to dress normally with a pair of hip-hugger jeans, a black slanted belt, a blue shirt, and jacket. Seated in the small of her back was a folding recurve bow and a knife. Namake's Taicho, do you think he will come? Asked Uka, looking at the man she admired greatly. Minato flipped a page in the book. My son will come. After all, you made it clear that he must come. Besides, this is an operation off the books like most of our operations, said Minato as he looked at the sword that his student was holding. Shushi-kun, is the voice still there? Asked Minato. Shushi looked at the sword. He's been quiet, but I honestly don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, said the swordsman. Just remember to inform me if it gets too loud or he tries to take over again. Taking possession of a cursed sword is no laughing matter, my boy, said Minato. Shushi nodded. Don't worry, Namake's Taicho. My will won't break, said Shushi. The floor lit up with the circle for the Citri family as Naruto stepped out. As he looked around the room, he saw Minato standing up. As he put his book away, Naruto narrowed his eyes, before he vanished and appeared above Minato. Shushi put his hand on Uramasa and was about to unsheath it, but was stopped by Minato raising his hand. Uzumaki Heavenly Axe! Yelled Naruto as lightning surged around his foot. Minato looked at the attack with amusement. Naruto's eyes widened as Shushi appeared and drew Uramasa, blocking the attack, before throwing Naruto away. Naruto flipped in the air and landed in a crouched position. He stood up and got into a stance as Shushi and Uka prepared to defend Minato with their lives. Shushi-kun, I asked you not to interfere, said Minato with a frown. Forgive me, Namake's Taicho, but I can't allow any harm to come to you on my watch, said Shushi. That's fine by me. You can get these hands too, pretty boy. And after I'm done with you, Namake's Minato is next, growled Naruto. Shushi glared at Naruto. You won't put a hand on Namake's Taicho, growled out the younger Hayakasa twin. I agree with Nichan. You attack him and we dater you, said Uka with narrowed eyes as her hand went to her bow. Minato clapped his hands, getting the trio to look at him. Alright, that's enough rough housing, children, said Minato as he looked at Naruto. Naruto-chan, it's been too long since I last saw you. You've grown strong. Naruto grit his teeth. Too long? 16 fucking years is too long. You let Ka-chan and me alone to die on the streets defenseless, yelled Naruto as his aura flared as blue lightning and black flames surrounded him. Minato sighed. I had responsibility to Kyoto as its special operations chief and deputy head of its military. Had I known what would have happened, I would have brought you both to Kyoto to be protected from those devils, said Minato, looking at his son with hints of sorrow. Keep your pity. I didn't need it when I was being bullied for no having a father. I didn't need it when Ka-chan and I were kidnapped and taken to the underworld to be treated as playthings for devil families. I don't need it now, yelled Naruto as he burst forward and attacked Uzumaki. Darkness smash. Naruto threw a punch at Minato that had black flames wrapped around it. Minato brought his own hand up covered in lightning, stopped the punch, causing a small explosion that sent Naruto flying backwards. Naruto rolled along the ground for a few moments, before righting himself and glaring at Minato. Minato looked at his hand. It had small burns and wisps of black flames on it. He shook his hand and smiled, managing to put the flames out using a bit of lightning. That was a pretty strong punch, son. You actually managed to numb my hand, said Minato, flexing his hand. Minato-sama! Yelled Uka, rushing over to her commander and tending to his hand using a potion. How dare you hurt Minato-sama, you bastard! Yelled Shushi, charging at Naruto, drawing his sword. Naruto summoned Frost Pain and stopped the attack, but as the blades connected, Naruto heard a creak in Frost Pain. Naruto broke the engagement as Frost Pain repaired itself. Naruto looked at Uramasa. That was no ordinary sword. Naruto gripped Frost Pain and prepared for a fight. That was stopped as a magic circle appeared on the ground. Out of the circle came Sona, Benia, and Piter. What are you doing in my territory? Asked Sona, flaring her devil's aura. Shushi jumped away from Naruto and stood guard before his commander and sister protectively. Uka pulled out her bow and strung an arrow. Tension was in full blast on both sides. Sona was glaring at the trio before her. She knew who Minato was. deputy commander of the Kyoto's military forces. For such a high-ranked member of Kyoto to be here was a problem. Unlike the ceasefire between the biblical factions, there were several supernatural factions in the world that the three didn't play nice with. Angels in particular didn't get along with any faction that claimed to have gods. "This is a surprise," said Minato, no longer smiling. "My future daughter-in-law and the invincible Rook Colossus. The last time I saw you I left you at the bottom of a hole. I'm a hard man to kill, Yellow Flash. What business do you have with my student?" asked Peter, crossing his arms and glaring at Minato. Minato raised his hands. "I have no desire to fight you, much less your sister Citri-san. I merely came to see my son and deliver a warning," said Minato. "A warning?" asked Sona. "Kyoto received word from one of our contacts in the Vatican that 3 of their holy swords have been stolen. Kyoto has taken precautions with our own holy swords and holy sword users to prevent anything from happening," said the blonde thunder beast. "And you didn't think to inform the other factions about this?" asked Sona with a raised eyebrow. "The Vatican is keeping this under wraps along with other things that could lead to a war between devils and angels if word gets out. I planned to station the Hayasaka twins here until this mess with the swords was straightened out, but we have our own problems to deal with that take precedence over the holy swords. A group by the name of LXC has been running amok in Kyoto. Recently we've tracked them here," said Minato. "This is a lot to take in," said Sona. "How do I know you're not lying?" Minato rubbed his forehead. "In about 2 days a trio of exorcists will arrive here in the city. They are here on the orders of Michael," said Minato. Sona narrowed her eyes. "Why are you telling us this?" asked Sona. Minato sighed. "Personally, I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important to the security of Kyoto. The 3 factions have been stirring up problems throughout the world. With the sisters of Surzex and Serafal here, things can get complicated quickly," said Minato. "Very well, for this information I will allow you to leave," said Sona, crossing her arms. "Make no mistake that if I catch you in my territory again there will be no mercy." Minato smiled as Shushi sheathed his sword and Uka collapsed her bow. As they made their way out, Shushi and Naruto's eyes locked. Once they group from Kyoto left, Sona rounded on Naruto with narrowed eyes. Naruto swallowed since he knew that he was in trouble. Location: Ko Town. Place: Sona and Naruto's home. Time: 0100. Smack! The sound of Sona's open palm reverberated throughout the living room as Naruto had a nice red handprint on the left side of his face. The rest of the peerage stood around the room. After the incident with Kyoto's special ops chief, Sona had called an emergency meeting, while Peter went to report his finding to Serafal. This was a potential international incident that needed to be addressed. Sona crossed her arms over her chest. "I don't need to tell you why I did what I did, do I?" asked Sona, a deep frown on her face. "No, Sona-sama," said Naruto, knowing that currently he wasn't speaking to his fiancée, but his king. "Sona-sama, don't you think you're being a little hard on Naruto-kun?" asked Mami. Currently Mami was wearing a black nightie that showed of much of her breasts, something Saji was really taking advantage of to get a good eyeful. "There's a lot more at stake than you think, magical girl," said Lu. He currently only wore a pair of sleep shorts. "What do you mean, Lu-san?" asked Mam with narrowed eyes. Tsubaki sighed. With Naruto's current engagement to Sona-sama as well as his defeat of Riser-sama, he is a high-profile target for other factions. "As Sona-sama is the sister of one of the Satans, that doubles things," said Tsubaki. "I don't get it. Naruto was able to beat Riser easily enough. Why couldn't he defeat this Minato guy?" asked Sanji. Naruto closed his eyes. "Unlike with Namikaze's Minato, Riser and I are about the same level of power when we max out. I practically maxed out when I throw a single punch at Namikaze. He stopped me with only a fraction of his power. The gap between us is as vast as a desert at the moment," said Naruto. "If this guy is so strong, how come I've never heard of him until tonight?" asked Benya. Sona sighed. "Minato is the deputy commander of the Kyoto military forces. That's not just a title he holds for shits and giggles either. The commander of the Kyoto forces is Sarutobi Hiruzen, and by all accounts in his youth he was strong enough to fight on even grounds with the 4 Seraphs. Nowadays he's more of the military advisor than a fighter. Namikaze Minato is strong, even for a lightning beast. He's strong enough to fight on even grounds with any cadre from the Gigori. Maybe even strong enough to defeat any of the Satans one-on-one except Surzex," said Sona. "That's not all," said Naruto, steeling himself to tell them his secret. "What do you mean?" asked Tsubaki, looking at her childhood or closet thing to a childhood friend in confusion. "Sona, do you remember when you found me in the streets?" asked Naruto, turning away from Sona and the others. Yes. I remember. You were a thief in my family's territory. You stole from people here to survive. Why bring that up now? Said Sona. What does that have to do with Namikaze? Asked Ruruko, crossing her arms under her breasts. I wasn't there by choice. My mother was the girlfriend, wife, hell lover of Namikaze Minato, said Naruto, making everyone look at him in wonder. He's your father?